Rapporteur 1 copy. Rapporteur 1 copy. Very good morning to all. Very soon we are going to start the program. Thank you. Rapporteur 4, come in.
Okay, good. ঠিক আছে. A very good morning to one and all present here. I, Dr. Abhi Kacharia Chaudhuri, on behalf of JIS University, welcome you all to the second day of this 2-day-long 95th East Zone Vice Chancellors Meet 2021 of Association of Indian Universities. Today, we have one technical session followed by AIU business session. To start today's first technical session, I would like to say that India is a treasure trove of culture developed over thousands of years and manifested in the form of arts, works of literature, customs, tradition, and linguistic expressions. The promotion of Indian arts and culture is important not only for the nation, but also for the individual. With this note, ladies and gentlemen, we will start today's session on promotion of Indian languages, arts, and culture. Before starting the session, let me talk something about the format of this session. There will be an opening remarks by the chairperson for around 5 minutes. Then the key speaker will talk for 20 minutes. Then we have time for each panelist for speaking 10 minutes and open house discussion that is for 25 minutes. After that, there will be concluding remarks by the session chair for 10 minutes. I would like to ask Director General of ICCR, Sri Dinesh K. Patnaik, to please chair this. Sir, please.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. I'm delighted to be here chairing this session of on promotion of language, arts and culture for the Association of Indian Universities Eastern Zone Vice Chancellors Meet. When I look at the topic, I'm really excited because this is something which we have been thinking about for a long time. We look at our education system. When you look at our education system, it has produced some of the brightest children, very competent students, brilliant academicians. But the question is, have they produced actually cultured individuals? Have they produced citizens of tomorrow who are imbued with the knowledge of the heritage of the culture? The main thing we are looking at is, any society which has 1 billion plus people like India has, will naturally, statistically produce about 10 to 15 million brilliant students. I mean, that is natural in any society, whether you do anything or not. Main thing is, have we actually created a higher grade of our average student? Because producing brilliant students, we can talk about brilliant people who are heading Oracle, software companies, top CEOs, brilliant scientists, brilliant individuals. But that is natural in a country of 1.2, 1.3 billion. Have we actually made our level, the average level, go up? This basically means, have we been able to imbue with all our citizens an innate thinking capabilities and individual creativity? Has creativity actually flourished? Or is it only to a certain section of people? Has the normal individual in our country been able to actually grow up to a certain level? More than that, what happens to the rest of the people who are not studying, who have reached up to only class 10, 12, who don't get to go to higher education? What kind of cultured individuals are we producing? These are things we need to discuss, and I'm glad this session today is going to discuss all this. Language, arts, and culture are critical to the development of mankind. Without these three, we do not have an identity. No different from animals or people without education. Because culture actually gives you that added thing which distinguishes you from others, which gives you a sense of identity, who you are, where you come from, what do you do. And in this times of COVID, when we are facing staying at home, not doing activities, we realize how important culture is to our life, how important culture and arts. I mean, to a large extent, the culture that we are getting is through TV, through Netflix, through all the other channels. But the culture that we live day to day, we realize how much we miss it if we don't have it. So it's important for the overall development of society. So what is it? How does language, arts, and culture affect us? If you look at it, it affects us in every field. It has an identity effect, of course. People identify themselves through culture, through the language, through arts. There's a cultural awareness of who we are, where we come from. More than that, it unleashes the creative spirit of human beings. There's a cognitive ability, the ability to innovate. These are very important things. It has a massive political effect, because when you are cultured, when you learn about other cultures, when you learn to identify with others, when there is an ability to see how others think about, there is more tolerance, there is more ability to talk to each other, there is an ability to actually build better society, better citizens. And there it comes to the social part of culture. Culture is intrinsic to society because it creates cohesion, bonding. People work in groups. It's no more the world where people work in disparate areas. Culture actually brings people together, gets you an appreciation of what the other person thinks. And most important, it's an intrinsic part of our economy. For a long time, both academics, intellectuals, everybody have been looking at culture and economy as two disparate things. And that is not how it is. Culture and economy are intricately linked. The economy, if you look at creative industries, a report was done recently by the British Council, report done by the Alliance Francaise, that more than 8% of the GDP actually comes from cultural industries. That there are jobs, huge amount of jobs, the economy that it created. So all this is important. And yet our education system has not actually put that much emphasis in producing cultured people as much as it has on producing people with competencies, rank, how high do you do, whether you qualify in this subject or not. We have large amount of students who pass out of schools and reach the university who really do not know much about their own cultures. They don't know about each other. I mean, tell me how many Bihar students actually know what happens in Kerala? How many people in the Northeast know what happens in Maharashtra or in Andhra Pradesh? How many people from South know what's happened? We really don't know each other. Our students do not go through the process of learning about what we are doing with each other. Languages, the 3 language formula is a great idea, but how many people know the languages of each other? And languages opens up windows to the world. We are actually, many times we at ICCR, I'm the Director General of ICCR, we look at taking Indian languages abroad. We take Hindi abroad, we take Tamil, we take many languages, we teach abroad, students abroad. But how many of us really look at teaching foreign languages to Indian students? In fact, I look at teaching foreign languages as a very important part of opening up a student's horizons, not just in terms of his access to the world, but in terms of what he can do. So these are the various aspects that we need to look at when we are looking at language, arts, and culture. Language is one aspect. Language is a very critical aspect because it cuts across everything. But culture and arts, I was talking to some people recently that if you make it mandatory for every student to have at least learn some music, some culture, some dance, some theater, or even sports, these are things which our education system puts at the periphery. That these are things you only do after you have finished your curriculum, after you finished your homework, after you finished your work. Then you go and indulge in these things which are extracurricular activities. These are not part of the intrinsic activities that a student does regularly. We need to take it back because these are things which create the audience of the future. Culture begets culture. If you have people being cultured, you will find there is a greater audience for culture. A greater audience for culture makes it a greater importance that you give to culture in your society. And when you give greater importance to culture, look at the economic benefits. Thousands and thousands of people who will practice culture, thousands of people who will come to watch culture, thousands will get trained. Just look at the number of instruments you will sell, the number of theaters which will open, the number of institutes which will open. Even this is huge. So putting culture as a basic ingredient of our education system is very, very important. The NEP has done a good job. For the first time, the NEP 2020 is looking at a greater emphasis on music, arts, and crafts. They have the 3 language formula, of course, but there is more emphasis going to be on experiential teaching, on hiring of outstanding artists as instructors, of having traditional Indian knowledge systems inculcated in our curriculum. All these is work to be done. But again, what I was looking at is that the NEP looks at the students which pass out of school. But where we are talking today at the Association of Indian Universities, we are talking about higher educational institutes. Now, your feeder group, if they do not give you enough cultured people, there is very little you can do. But what can the Association of Indian Universities, what can vice chancellors like you across the country actually do to inculcate language, arts, and culture in your own institutions? How many of our institutions, which are, let's say, engineering colleges, medical colleges, or others, actually teach culture as part of the, if you look at MIT, you look at any of the top institutes in the world, students, Berkeley Institute has a Sanskrit department where 90% of the Sanskrit students are actually IT and engineering students. While they're doing IT and engineering, they come to learn Sanskrit because that's part of their cultural component of their. How many of our higher education institutions actually make it mandatory for students to have at least some credits in a cultural? So these are things we will need to talk about today. We have a very good panel which is with us today. We have Sri Anil Kothari, who will give the keynote speaker, and we have three other professors, Professor Kattamani, Professor Anupanna Nautiyal. I'm not so sure Professor Joy Sen is here. I spoke to him yesterday evening. He said he's traveling. So I have a feeling Professor Joy Sen won't be here. But what we will do is we will go through each of the speakers that are there in our list. We will get together to see what it is. We will be expecting questions from all of you. I hope there is a coordinator who will coordinate the questions which has come. And then at the end, we will sum up to see what we can do. But we need to find a path, chart a path where it makes it mandatory for people to start looking at culture as an intrinsic part of our education system. And more important, as an intrinsic part of the higher education system. For some strange reason, we have always divided them that, culture has to be a culture university, languages have to be taught only in language universities. We are not integrating them into mainstream, into every student that passes out. And this is important. If we have to look at it, we have to do it in a very holistic and comprehensive manner. With this, I ask our first speaker, Sri Atul Kothari from the Shiksha Sanskrit, I cannot see Uttayanas, to speak. Sri Kothari, please. Sri Kothari, I think you are muted. We are unable to hear you.
Sri Atul Kothari is the keynote speaker of this session. So I would like to call Dr. S. Ramadevi Pani, editor, University News, AIU, on this virtual stage to please introduce Sri Atul Kothari.
धन्यवाद अविक जी। सभा में उपस्थित सभी विद्वानों को मेरा प्रणाम। आज के इस अधिवेशन के शुभ अवसर पर हम सभी के बीच मुख्य वक्ता के रूप में अतुल कोठारी जी की गरिमामयी उपस्थिति हमारे लिए सौभाग्य और अति प्रसन्नता का विषय है। उनके परिचय का दायित्व मुझे दिया गया है, पर जहाँ तक कि मैं जानती हूँ कि उनके परिचय से हम में से कोई अनभिज्ञ नहीं है। दरअसल उनका परिचय कराने के लिए ये सत्र का जितना समय है उतना समय भी कम पड़ जाएगा, परंतु परंपरावश मैं उनका संक्षेप परिचय आप सबके समक्ष रखती हूँ। श्री अतुल कोठारी जी शिक्षा संस्कृति उत्थान न्यास नई दिल्ली के राष्ट्रीय सचिव हैं तथा शिक्षा बचाओ आंदोलन समिति के राष्ट्रीय सह संयोजक। शिक्षा संवर्धन के कार्यों के प्रचार प्रसार और विस्तार में आपकी हमेशा अग्रणी भूमिका रही है। देश के शिक्षा क्षेत्र में सकारात्मक कार्य करने वाली संस्थाओं, विद्यमानों और कार्यकर्ताओं को एक मंच पर लाने का निरंतर प्रयास आपका प्रशंसनीय है। आपके शिक्षा के विभिन्न विषयों के विशेषज्ञ के रूप में देश के विभिन्न विश्वविद्यालयों एवं शैक्षिक संस्थाओं से जुड़े रहे हैं। आप हिमाचल प्रदेश स्कूल बोर्ड, पंजाब टेक्निकल यूनिवर्सिटी के अध्ययन बोर्ड व अनेक प्रतिष्ठित संस्थाओं के समितियों के सदस्य भी हैं। आपने बहुत सी पुस्तकों का लेखन और संपादन भी किया है, जिनमें से कुछ प्रकाशित भारतीय शिक्षा राष्ट्रीय संकल्पना, उच्च शिक्षा भारतीय दृष्टि, शिक्षा के विकल्प और आयाम आदि प्रमुख हैं। आप शिक्षा उत्थान द्विमासिक पत्रिका एवं शिक्षा दर्पण मासिक पत्रिका के संपादक भी हैं। आदरणीय अतुल कोठारी जी के नाम अनेक उपलब्धियां हैं, जिनके लिए आपको अनेक श्रेष्ठ सम्मान भी प्राप्त हैं, जिनमें आपके नाम भारतीय भाषा प्रतिष्ठान राष्ट्रीय परिसर मुंबई राष्ट्रभाषा स्वतंत्रता सेनानी का आजीवन प्रमाण पत्र है। श्यामलाल कॉलेज सांध्य द्वारा सम्मान प्रमुख उपलब्धियां हैं, सम्मान है आपके प्रति। इस संक्षिप्त विवरण के साथ आविक जी मैं आपको मंच सौंपती हूँ। आप हमारे इस सेशन के अध्यक्ष श्री दिनेश के पटनायक जी का भी इस सभा में इंट्रोड्यूस कराएं प्लीज। थैंक यू।
इस अधिवेशन के दूसरे दिन के प्रथम सत्र के सम्मान्य अध्यक्ष डॉक्टर दिनेश पटनायक जी, विद्वान कुलपति प्रोफेसर टीवी कृष्णमणि कट्टीमणि जी, प्रोफेसर अन्नपूर्ण नोटियाल जी, AIU के सेक्रेटरी जनरल डॉक्टर पंकज मित्तल जी, तथा इस अधिवेशन में प्रतिभाग कर रहे सभी विद्वान कुलपति बहनों और बंधुओं, बहुत आनंद का विषय है कि भारतीय विश्वविद्यालय संघ ने इस साल ये न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी और इसके इम्प्लीमेंटेशन की दृष्टि से सारे अधिवेशन आयोजित कर रहा है। इसलिए मैं डॉक्टर पंकज मित्तल जी और विश्वविद्यालय संघ के सभी पदाधिकारियों का बहुत बहुत अभिनंदन करता हूं। आज का विषय भी अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण है। ये जो एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आई है, राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 2020, उसकी दो प्रमुख विशेषताएं है। पहली तो ये है कि ये भारत केंद्रित, भारत सेंट्रिक पॉलिसी है। दूसरी बात है कि इस पॉलिसी में कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव, होलिस्टिक एंड इंटीग्रेटेड अप्रोच है, यानी समग्र सर्वांगीण और इंटीग्रेटेड समग्र सर्वांगीण और एकात्म दृष्टि है। वास्तव में यही भारतीय दृष्टि है। इसी के प्रकाश में आज का जो सेशन है, तो इस पॉलिसी का जो विजन स्टेटमेंट है वही आज के इस सेशन का परिचायक है। एक प्रकार से पॉलिसी के पेज 8 पर इस विजन के बारे में लिखा है, एक छोटा सा पैरा है, मैं आपके सामने पढ़ता हूं। इस राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति का विजन भारतीय मूल्यों से विकसित शिक्षा प्रणाली है, जो सभी को उच्चतर गुणवत्ता शिक्षा उपलब्ध करा के और भारत को वैश्विक ज्ञान की महाशक्ति बनाकर भारत को जीवंत और न्याय संगत ज्ञान समाज में बदलने के लिए प्रत्यक्ष रूप से योगदान करेगी। नीति में परिकल्पित है कि हमारे संस्थानों की पाठ्यचर्या और शिक्षा विधि छात्रों में अपने मौलिक दायित्व और संवैधानिक मूल्यों, देश के साथ जुड़ाव और बदलते विश्व में नागरिक की भूमिका और उत्तरदायित्व की जागरूकता उत्पन्न करे। नीति का विजन छात्रों में भारतीय होने का गर्व न केवल विचार में बल्कि व्यवहार, बुद्धि और कार्यों में भी हो, और साथ ही ज्ञान, कौशल, मूल्यों और सोच में भी होना चाहिए। इस प्रकार का ये जो विजन स्टेटमेंट है, इसी में ये आज का जो सेशन है, भारतीय भाषाएं, कला एवं संस्कृति को बढ़ावा देने के लिए इस शिक्षा नीति में क्या बातें कही गई है। इसके इंट्रोडक्शन में भी पेज 4 पर, पेज 5 पर ये इंट्रोडक्शन में भी इसी बात को दोहराया गया है। मैं समय के अभाव में इसको रिपीट नहीं कर रहा हूं। और 10.8 से लेकर 22.9 तक विभिन्न स्थानों पर भारतीय भाषाएं, भारतीय कल्चर, भारतीय कलाएं, इसका समावेश करना का उल्लेख इस नीति में किया गया है। मूल प्रमुख बात है कि ये सबका अगर एक ही शब्द में कहना है तो इस शिक्षा नीति में सभी स्तर पर भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा, भारतीय नॉलेज सिस्टम को इंट्रोड्यूस करने की बात कही गई है। वो सिर्फ भारतीय नॉलेज सिस्टम को इंट्रोड्यूस करना है, यानी क्या हमारा नॉलेज है इसलिए इंट्रोड्यूस करना चाहिए, ये कोई लॉजिक या साइंटिफिक बात नहीं है। लेकिन ये साइंटिफिक और लॉजिकल बात है। वैसे जब आज मैक्सिमम 100 ईयर्स से एनवायरमेंट का प्रॉब्लम वर्ल्ड में है, लेकिन हमारे 2000, 4000, 5000 पहले जो सारे ग्रंथ लिखे गए, इसमें एनवायरमेंट रिलेटेड मंत्रास क्यों लिखे गए थे? दुनिया आज योग को एक्सेप्ट इसलिए कर रही है कि स्ट्रेस में है, हेल्थ के प्रॉब्लम है, उसका सॉल्यूशन योग से मिलता है, इसलिए आज योग दुनिया में वर्ल्ड लेवल पर फेमस हुआ है। लेकिन भारत में तो हजारों साल की योग की परंपरा है। तो इसका तात्पर्य यह है कि भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा वो है कि प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट होने के बाद सॉल्यूशन की बात नहीं सोचता है। आज जैसे कोरोना एक बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम, एक महामारी वर्ल्ड के सामने आई है, तो उसको सॉल्यूशन ढूंढने का प्रयास पूरे वर्ल्ड लेवल पर हो रहा है। भारत में भी अभी वैक्सीन आई है। तो प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट होने के बाद आफ्टर 1 ईयर भी एग्जैक्ट सॉल्यूशन हम नहीं कर पाए हैं। लेकिन भारतीय नॉलेज सिस्टम वो है कि प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट ही न हो या क्रिएट होने के बाद हमारे पास सॉल्यूशन उपलब्ध हो, ये भारतीय नॉलेज सिस्टम है। इसलिए भारतीय नॉलेज सिस्टम भारत के लिए, पूरे वर्ल्ड के लिए यूजफुल है। इसलिए पूरा वर्ल्ड आज योग, आयुर्वेद, ये सारी बातों को स्वीकार कर रहा है, स्वागत कर रहा है। लेकिन आज हमारी एजुकेशन सिस्टम में भारतीय नॉलेज सिस्टम की बातें कहीं नहीं है। मैं 2000, 4000, 5000 ईयर बिफोर की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ। 150 ईयर्स पहले रामानुजन हो गया, श्रीनिवास रामानुजन, मैथमेटिशियन, वर्ल्ड का ग्रेट मैथमेटिशियन। लेकिन आज हमारी सिस्टम में रामानुजन कहीं नहीं है। जब 125th ईयर सेलिब्रेट कर रहे थे भारत और पूरे वर्ल्ड लेवल पर उनके बर्थ के, तब एक इंटरनेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस दिल्ली में हुआ था। इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में वर्ल्ड लेवल के अमेरिका, ऑस्ट्रेलिया, इंग्लैंड, कनाडा, सब जगह से मैथमेटिशियन आए थे। मेरे भी कुछ मित्र उसमें गए थे। तो मेरे मित्रों ने कहा कि वो अमेरिका, इंग्लैंड से आए वो मैथमेटिशियन हमको पूछ रहे थे कि आप लोग क्यों रामानुजन पर काम नहीं कर रहे? रामानुजन तो आपका है। यहाँ बैठे हुए सब विद्वान जानते हैं कि रामानुजन की हस्तलिखित 3 डायरी, जिसको बाद में टाटा इंस्टीट्यूट फंडामेंटल ने, मुंबई के इंस्टीट्यूट ने उनको प्रिंट किया, वो 3 डायरी का सॉल्यूशन वर्ल्ड लेवल के कोई मैथमेटिशियन आज तक नहीं कर पाए। इतना ग्रेट मैथमेटिशियन हमारे भारत के तमिलनाडु के गांव का, लेकिन वो रामानुजन हमारे सिस्टम में नहीं है। ऐसे सैकड़ों एग्जाम्पल दिए जा सकते हैं। तो भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा को इंट्रोड्यूस करना है तो बिना भारतीय भाषा के नहीं होगा। क्योंकि आज हम ट्रांसलेटेड सारा लिटरेचर पढ़ रहे हैं, तो इसमें काफी डिस्टोर्शन भी है। अपने अपने ढंग से लोगों ने किया है इंटरप्रिटेशन। तो विद्वान व्यक्ति तो ओरिजिनल टेक्स्ट ही पढ़ता है, और ओरिजिनल टेक्स्ट जो है वो संस्कृत में है सारे। इसलिए संस्कृत को प्रमोशन करने की बात इस पॉलिसी में कही गई है। संस्कृत सिर्फ एक भारतीय लैंग्वेज है, इसलिए उनको प्रमोट करना इतना नहीं है। सारा हमारा एंशिएंट नॉलेज उस संस्कृत में है, और वर्ल्ड लेवल के बहुत सारे साइंटिस्टों ने इसलिए संस्कृत का अध्ययन किया है, क्योंकि उनको ओरिजिनल टेक्स्ट पढ़ना था भारत का। और हमारे आज भी हमारी पांडुलिपियां, करोड़ों पांडुलिपियां है। कुछ पांडुलिपियां तो ऐसी है कि जिसको पढ़ने की क्षमता रखने वाले कोई लोग नहीं रहे हैं। अलग अलग लैंग्वेज में भी है। और कुछ पांडुलिपियां ऐसी है कि अगर आज उसको स्टडी नहीं करेंगे तो वो डेथ हो जाएगी वो भी फिर। इसलिए इस पॉलिसी में कहा है कि हमारा जो पांडुलिपियां है उनको विश्वविद्यालयों के भाषा विभाग, लैंग्वेज डिपार्टमेंट में उसका संरक्षण, संवर्धन और प्रमोशन करना चाहिए। इसलिए हर यूनिवर्सिटी के भाषा विभाग को स्ट्रेंथन करने की भी बात कही गई है, उसके विकास और विस्तार की भी बात कही गई है। भारतीय आर्ट, भारतीय संस्कृति, ये भारतीय इसलिए हम लोग कहते हैं कि वो हमारे देश में यहां से निर्माण हुई है इसलिए, लेकिन पूरे वर्ल्ड के लिए वो यूजफुल है। भारतीय संस्कृति का अगर एक ही वर्ड में, वन वर्ड में अगर बताना है तो वो है आध्यात्मिकता, स्पिरिचुअलिज्म। और स्पिरिचुअलिटी पूरे वर्ल्ड के लिए यूजफुल है, आवश्यक है। इसलिए भारतीय भाषाएं, भारतीय संस्कृति, भारतीय कलाएं, भारतीय परंपराएं, इन सब बातों को सभी लेवल पर इंट्रोड्यूस करने की बात इसमें कही गई है। हमारा देश रिसर्च में बहुत पिछड़ रहा है। तो उसका एक रीजन तो फाइनेंस भी है। इसलिए जो इस पॉलिसी में रिसर्च फाउंडेशन की बात कही गई है, लेकिन सिर्फ फाइनेंस, पैसा ज्यादा देने से रिसर्च अच्छा हो जाएगा ऐसा कहना मुश्किल है। रिसर्च का एक महत्वपूर्ण कारण है कि रिसर्च यानी इंग्लिश हमारे यहाँ, ये शायद वर्ल्ड में कहीं नहीं है। मेरा इंग्लिश भाषा का विरोध नहीं है मित्रों, लेकिन साइंस कहता है कि सृजनात्मकता, क्रिएटिविटी, इनोवेशन, रिसर्च ये अपनी भाषा में ही हो सकता है। इजराइल 1948 में स्वतंत्र हुआ हमारे बाद। उनका तो कोई देश ही नहीं था, उनका भाषा थी, न देश था, सब समाप्त हो गया था। पूरी दुनिया में से बिखरे हुए थे और वो इकट्ठे हुए। कहते हैं कि वास्तव में हिब्रू भाषा उनकी जानने वाले उस समय 10 लोग भी, डबल फिगर में भी लोग नहीं थे, लेकिन उन्होंने डिसाइड किया कि हमारे बच्चे स्टडी नहीं करेंगे, 2 साल पढ़ाई नहीं करेंगे तो चलेगा, लेकिन हम हमारी भाषा में ही पढ़ाएंगे। और आज देखिए कि छोटा सा इजराइल 60 लाख अबाउट उनकी पॉपुलेशन है, 17 लोगों को नोबेल मिला है, 17 और सभी 17 लोगों ने अपनी हिब्रू भाषा में काम किया है। तो ये मातृभाषा, अपनी भाषा में शिक्षा से लेकर रिसर्च, सारी बात है, ये मोस्ट साइंटिफिक अप्रोच है। इसका तात्पर्य है कि नहीं कि दूसरी कोई भाषा हमारे बच्चे न सीखे। हमारे देश की भाषा भी बच्चे सीखे, विदेश की भाषा भी सीखे। और इस पॉलिसी में सेकेंडरी, हायर सेकेंडरी लेवल पर, सीनियर सेकेंडरी लेवल पर इंटरनेशनल लैंग्वेज का भी एक ऑप्शन दिया है। तो इस दृष्टि से ये जो वास्तव में हमारी एजुकेशन का, भारत के आधार पर हमारी एजुकेशन सिस्टम लाना है, और जिस प्रकार का हमको एजुकेशन से रिजल्ट चाहिए उस प्रकार की सिस्टम लाना है। इस दृष्टि से ये भारतीय भाषाएं, भारतीय संस्कृति, भारतीय कलाएं, इनको इंट्रोड्यूस करने की सभी लेवल पर बात की गई है। इसलिए सभी हायर लेवल के इंस्टीट्यूशन में या तो मातृभाषा में या द्विभाषा में पाठ्यक्रम, करिकुलम की बात कही गई है। और हमारे माननीय शिक्षा मंत्री ने अभी कुछ दिनों पूर्व ही अनाउंस किया है कि आईआईटी में भी, काशी हिंदू विश्वविद्यालय में जो आईआईटी है, वहां सबसे पहले हिंदी माध्यम में आईआईटी की पढ़ाई प्रारंभ होगी अगले साल से। हमारे यहाँ थोड़ा लोगों को बहुत आश्चर्य लगता है और थोड़ा कठिन भी लग रहा है, क्योंकि हमको लास्ट 50 ईयर से ये हैबिट हो गई है सारा इंग्लिश में हायर लेवल पर काम करने की। तो हम तो कुछ सालों से ये बात कह रहे हैं कि मेडिकल, इंजीनियरिंग, मैनेजमेंट, सभी एजुकेशन अपनी भाषा में होना चाहिए। अपनी भाषा में होना चाहिए, इसका तात्पर्य नहीं कि इंग्लिश में नहीं होना चाहिए, लेकिन हमारी भाषा का विकल्प तो होना चाहिए। तो कई बार लोगों को बड़ा आश्चर्य लगता है और बड़ा विचित्र भी लगता था कि मेडिकल, इंजीनियरिंग, मैनेजमेंट ये अपनी भाषा में एजुकेशन हो सकती है क्या? हमारे बच्चे रसिया जाकर रशियन भाषा सीखकर वहां मेडिकल की पढ़ाई रशियन भाषा में करे, वो हो सकता है, लेकिन हमारे देश में हमारी भाषा में मेडिकल की पढ़ाई नहीं हो सकती। अभी भी एमसीआई परमिशन नहीं दे रहा है। अभी आगे तो करना पड़ेगा उनको, क्योंकि पॉलिसी का डिसीजन है। इसलिए तो इस दृष्टि से ये सभी विषयों को इस पॉलिसी में पहली बार आफ्टर 150 ईयर्स इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया है। इसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ये थोड़ा चैलेंज है हमारे सामने, इसलिए एक क्रमबद्ध रूप से इसके इम्प्लीमेंटेशन का प्लान करना चाहिए। हर इश्यू, इतने नए इश्यू है इस पॉलिसी में कि एक साथ टोटालिटी में इम्प्लीमेंटेशन करना संभव नहीं है, और लोग उसको कर भी नहीं पाएंगे। इसलिए टाइम टेबल बनाना पड़ेगा हम लोगों को। पॉलिसी में भी टाइम टेबल दिया गया है। इस प्रकार का टाइम टेबल हर इंस्टीट्यूट में, हर यूनिवर्सिटीज में प्लान करना चाहिए। जैसे हमारे एक मित्र है आईआईटी के प्रोफेसर, तो उन्होंने कहा हमको कि हमने द्विभाषा में पढ़ाना प्रारंभ कर दिया, तो ये फर्स्ट स्टेप हो गया। सेकंड स्टेप क्या, नेक्स्ट ईयर हम बच्चों को सभी इंस्टीट्यूट में, सभी यूनिवर्सिटीज में इंग्लिश या वहां की लोकल लैंग्वेज में आंसर शीट में लिखने के लिए परमिशन दे सकते हैं। ये सेकंड स्टेप हो जाएगा। और तब तक हमको 2020, 22, 23 से टोटालिटी में पॉलिसी इंट्रोड्यूस करने की बात चल रही है देश में। तो तब तक हमको 1.5 ईयर, 1.5 साल लगभग मिल जाएगा। तब तक हम अपनी भाषा में पुस्तकें, सिलेबस तैयार कर ले। तो ग्रेजुअली करने से ये सारी बातें स्लोली इम्प्लीमेंटेशन होती जाएगी। तो इस प्रकार ये सारे सब्जेक्ट के बारे में भी इस प्रकार प्लानिंग करने से इम्प्लीमेंटेशन बहुत इजी हो जाएगा। और पट्टायक जी भी कह रहे थे कि हमारे यहाँ आर्ट्स कल्चर ये पढ़ाया नहीं जाता है। तो अभी जो ये मेरू कॉन्सेप्ट इस पॉलिसी में आया है उसके अंतर्गत सभी इंस्टीट्यूट में ये स्टार्ट हो जाएगा। एआईसीटी भी उसका प्लान कर रही है, आईआईटी लोग भी शुरू कर रहे हैं सारी बातें। तो हमारे यहाँ चाहे आईआईटी हो, चाहे मेडिकल हो, चाहे मैनेजमेंट हो, तो उसी सब्जेक्ट के बारे में सिर्फ पढ़ाई होती है। ऐसा शायद वर्ल्ड में बहुत कम जगह होगा। ठीक है, मुख्य मेन एम्फेसिस उसका वही होना चाहिए, लेकिन साथ साथ बाकी विषयों का भी, आर्ट कल्चर संबंधित, मानविक संबंधित, भाषा संबंधित विषयों का विकल्प भी सामने होना चाहिए उनके पास। तो वो प्रावधान इस नीति में भी किया गया है और इस दिशा में बहुत सारे संस्थानों ने काम भी शुरू कर दिए हैं। इस पॉलिसी के द्वारा जो इस पॉलिसी का जो विजन है, वो विजन वास्तव में रूप में हम प्राप्त कर सकते हैं। इस पॉलिसी को टोटलिटी में स्टेप बाय स्टेप इंट्रोड्यूस करने से, और जिस भारतीय संस्कृति, भारतीय भाषाएं, भारतीय कला के बारे में पूरे वर्ल्ड उसका बड़े अच्छे ढंग से देखता है और स्वागत करता है और मानता है, लेकिन हमारा देश के लोगों की स्वाभिमान नहीं है अपनी बातों का, तो स्वाभिमान भी जगेगा और हमारी शिक्षा व्यवस्था भी जिस प्रकार का उनका एक स्वरूप चाहिए और जिस प्रकार के उनके रिजल्ट की हम अपेक्षा करते हैं, ये तीनों बातें इससे सिद्ध हो सकेगी, ऐसा मेरा विश्वास है। मुझे इस महत्वपूर्ण अधिवेशन में आपने निमंत्रित किया और मेरा विचार रखने का अवसर दिया, इसलिए डॉक्टर पंकज मित्तल जी सहित भारतीय विश्वविद्यालय संघ के सभी पदाधिकारी और परिवार का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir. The speaker of this session is Professor T.V. Kattimani. Professor Kattimani is the Vice Chancellor of Central Tribal University of Andhra Pradesh. Prior to this, he was Vice Chancellor of Indira Gandhi National Tribal University, Amarkantak. He served Maulana Azad National Urdu University as professor and dean in the departments of Mass Communication and School of Languages, Linguistic and Indology. He is a member of many important committees of Government India, namely Draft Committee of National Education Policy, Ministry of Human Resource Development, Expert Member Education Quality Upgradation and Inclusion Program, Ministry of HRD, Government of India. Member Standing Committee for Tribal Welfare, MOTA, Government of India. He has, to his credit, several publications. Professor Kattimani, please, the stage is all yours.
Sir, please open your webcam. Professor T.V. Kattimani, please come in, sir.
Professor Kattimani. Hello, sir.
think Professor Kattimani is busy in another meeting. I think he will join a little later.
No, I'm here.
No.
I am here.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
I'm
sir.
here.
Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. May I talk now?
Yes, sir, please.
थैंक यू। सबको प्रणाम। भारतीय विश्वविद्यालय संघ की ओर से होने वाले इस सेमिनार में भाग लेने वाले परम आदरणीय डॉक्टर अतुल कोठारी जी, प्रोफेसर दिनेश पट्टनायक जी, प्रोफेसर पंकज मित्तल जी, सभी वाइस चांसलर, अधिकारीगण, सबको प्रणाम करते हुए मैं भारतीय विश्वविद्यालय संघ को बधाई देता हूं, क्योंकि हम एनईपी 2020 के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के सेकंड स्टेज पर। फर्स्ट स्टेज वी हैव एक्सेप्टेड, not only we have accepted, we started a national debate on implementation of NEP 20. I congratulate the officers of Bharatiya Vishwavidyalaya Sangh, especially Professor Pankaj Mittal ji. अभी दिनेश पट्टनायक जी ने बात की और अतुल कोठारी साहब ने जो बात की, भारतीय परंपरा को, संस्कृत को, अन्य भारतीय भाषाओं को और जो शास्त्रीय भाषाएं हैं जो लुप्त होने लगी हैं या उनका प्रचलन बहुत कम हुआ है, लेकिन उसमें जो ज्ञान परंपरा है, उस ज्ञान परंपरा के आधार पर हमको सिलेबस कैसे बनानी है, टेक्स्ट बुक कैसे बनानी है, ये बात हुई। मैं एक अछूते आयाम को आपके सामने रखने की कोशिश करता हूँ। भारत में 10 करोड़ जनजातीय लोग हैं, 100 से ज्यादा जनजातीय भाषाएं हैं। इसका मतलब 100 से ज्यादा जनजातीय समाज हमारे बीच में, और वो सब जंगल, नदी, पहाड़ों में रहने के कारण से इनकी भाषाएं अभी भी स्वच्छ, साफ सुथरा और भारत को अपने साथ लेकर चले। कई भाषाओं की लिपि नहीं है, लेकिन उनकी एक अद्भुत परंपरा है। कोठारी साहब आयुर्वेद की बात कर रहे थे, योग की बात कर रहे थे। ये जनजातीय समाज में अभी भी स्वच्छ और साफ रूप में हमारे बीच में हैं। इन इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम्स को, भारतीय भाषाओं को, जिनको हमारे भाषाविदों ने, लिंग्विस्ट ने पहाड़ी भाषाएं कहकर छोड़ दिया था। भारत सरकार को मैं धन्यवाद देना चाहूंगा। एनईपी के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के साथ साथ जो एंडेंजर्ड लैंग्वेजेस हैं, उनका प्रमोशन का बीड़ा भारत सरकार ने उठाया है। हम सब इसके भागीदार हैं। मैं मानता हूं कि हम सब भागीदार। जो इंडियन मेडिसिनल सिस्टम जनजातीय भाषा में अभी भी प्रचलित है, उपयोग में है, और भारत बैगा जैसी जनजातीय भाषा जो सेंट्रल इंडिया में 4 राज्यों में है, उसमें बोटानिकल नेम्स, मेडिसिनल नेम्स बहुत पुराने दिनों से, 2000 बरस से भी पहले ये नाम बहुत स्पष्ट है। जड़ को क्या बोलते हैं, जड़ के अंदर वाला उसका उपयोग क्या है, और उसका बार्क है उसके लिए क्या है, फलियों के लिए क्या है, फल के लिए क्या है, उसका क्या गुण है, किस मात्रा में उसका उपयोग करना है, ये जनजातीय भाषाओं में पहले से लिखा हुआ नहीं है, लेकिन प्रचलित है, उपयोग है, और अभी भी इसका उपयोग चल रहा है। हमको एनईपी ने एक मौका दिया है कि आप आसपास के स्किल्स को, आसपास के विश्वास को, आसपास के यथोस को आप टेक्स्ट बुक में लाएं। जैसे कोठारी साहब ने कहा कि आप 6 स्टैंडर्ड में लाइए, 5 स्टैंडर्ड में लाइए, 10 में लाइए, रिसर्च में लाइए, इसको लाना जरूरी और उनकी मातृभाषा में लाना जरूरी है, क्योंकि एनईपी ने एक बहुत बड़ा स्कोप हमको दिया है कि आप ट्रांसलेशन किसी भी भाषा में कराओ। कोठारी साहब ने एक बहुत अच्छा उदाहरण दिया, मुझे बहुत पसंद आया, हम सबको पसंद आया कि हम चीन में जाते हैं मेडिसिन पढ़ने, हमारे बच्चे चीनी भाषा पढ़कर मेडिसिन पढ़ते, लेकिन रशिया में जाते हैं रशियन भाषा पढ़ते, लेकिन हम यहाँ हिंदी में पढ़ना हमको मुश्किल लगता है, इसलिए कि ये जो गुलामियत की जो भावना आजादी के बाद जाना था, ये भावना नहीं गई। संस्कृत को न अपनाना ये गुलामियत का एक संकेत है। मातृभाषा को न अपनाना हम तैयार नहीं, कि अभी भी हम मानते हैं कि अभी भी अंग्रेजी ही हमारी ज्ञान परंपरा का बहुत बड़ा स्रोत है, नौकरी का बहुत बड़ा स्रोत है। हालांकि ये सिद्ध हुआ है कि अंग्रेजी और नौकरी का कोई संबंध नहीं, स्किल और अंग्रेजी का संबंध नहीं है। स्किल का संबंध वो कृषि से संबंधित है, वो गाय से संबंधित है, बकरी से संबंधित है, भैंस से संबंधित है, तालाब से संबंधित है, मछली से संबंधित है, सरोवर से संबंधित है, सागर से संबंधित है, अंग्रेजी से संबंधित नहीं। केवल ये सांस्कृतिक गुलामी है हम लोगों की मेरी, कि मैं अपनी मातृभाषा के महत्व को समझने में मैं असमर्थ हूं। दूसरों की जो माता है उनको मैं अपनी माता समझकर बैठा हूं। मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा कि जो स्किल्स में जो आसपास के कंडीशंस हैं, आसपास के स्किल्स हैं, बढ़ई है, कारपेंटर है, ब्लैकस्मिथ है, लोहार है, ये स्किल्स हमारे स्किल्स होना चाहिए, कंप्यूटर के स्किल होने के पहले। अब कुम्हार जहां मैं आंध्र प्रदेश में हूँ, मेरी दोस्ती हुई है, वो कहते हैं कि उनके जितने भी प्रोडक्शंस है वो आदिवासी ट्राइब कुम्हार है, वो उनका सभी फ्रांस जाता है। अब एनईपी कहता है कि आप पॉटरी पढ़िए, सब लोग पढ़िए, कुम्हार का बेटा पॉटरी पढ़ना जरूरी नहीं। मैं जनजातीय आदमी का बेटा हूं, मुझे गाय बकरी चराना था, मैं वाइस चांसलर बन गया, मैं प्रोफेसर हो गया, ये शिक्षा के कारण से, मातृभाषा शिक्षण के कारण से। फर्स्ट स्टैंडर्ड टू कंप्लीशन ऑफ डिग्री मैं अपनी मातृभाषा कन्नड़ में मैंने पाई, जिसके कारण से बलबूते पर और जिसके शक्ति पर मैं हिंदी में भी बात सकता हूं, कर सकता हूं और कन्नड़ में भी कर सकता हूं। ये शक्ति केवल भारतीय बच्चों में है, भारतीय शिक्षकों में है। हमारे सभी शिक्षक कम से कम 2 भाषाएं जानते हैं, थोड़ा सा प्रयास करेंगे तो 3 भाषाएं जानते हैं। मैं भारत सरकार को, हमारे विद्या मंत्री जी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूं, क्योंकि उन्होंने 8 आईआईटीज को सिलेक्ट किया है। तिरुपति के आईआईटी डायरेक्टर मुझसे कह रहे थे, वो उनको अभी सिलेबस को, टेक्स्ट को तेलुगु भाषा में अनुवाद करना है। बीएचयू में आईआईटी जो है, भाई साहब कह रहे थे, कोठारी साहब, कि वहां हिंदी में नेक्स्ट ईयर से होना है, जरूर होना है। मैं कहता हूँ आईआईएम में होना। आईआईएम में जो पढ़ाई की जाती है भाई साहब, बंधुओं, वहां दुनिया भर के बड़े बड़े सक्सेसफुल बिजनेसमैन के स्टोरीज हमको देते हैं। लेकिन हमारे जो बिजनेसमैन हैं, जहां से वो नीचे से ऊपर तक आ गए, धीरूभाई अंबानी का जो सक्सेस स्टोरी है, या मैं हजारों उदाहरण तेलुगु प्रदेश का दे सकता हूं, कन्नड़ प्रदेश का दे सकता हूं, मराठी प्रदेश का दे सकता हूं, जिनका हमारे टेक्स्ट बुक में आना बहुत जरूरी। और हमारे टेक्स्ट बुक में एग्रीकल्चर आना, दिनेश पटनायक जी ने जो बात की, हमारे टेक्स्ट बुक में, आईआईएम के टेक्स्ट बुक में एग्रीकल्चर आना जरूरी, या आईआईटी के टेक्स्ट बुक में, इंजीनियरिंग टेक्स्ट बुक में how cow produces milk. गाय के दूध और बकरी के दूध में क्या फर्क है, प्रोटीन क्या होता है, फैट क्या होता है, भैंस के दूध में और देशी गाय के दूध में क्या फर्क है। ये होना क्योंकि अब हमको इस तरह का एजुकेशन होना है जो पहले हम भारत को समझे, हम टेक्स्ट बुक इसके हिसाब से, मातृभाषा के हिसाब से। मैं तो कहूंगा आईआईटी के लोगों को हिंदी में कुछ किताबें बनानी है तो मैं बनाकर दे, उनको कन्नड़ में बनानी है, आई एम रेडी, माय टीम इज रेडी, हम बना के देने को तैयार। और एग्रीकल्चर में सोशल साइंस को, एंथ्रोपोलॉजी को जोड़ना, सोशियोलॉजी को जोड़ना, वाटर, रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टमेंट टेक्नोलॉजी को जोड़ना बहुत जरूरी है। रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टमेंट टेक्नोलॉजी के बगैर हमारे किसान नुकसान पा रहे हैं। पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट जो रक्षा के तंत्र हैं, फसल की हिफाजत के जो तंत्र हैं, हालांकि ट्रेडिशनल तंत्र हमारे किसानों के पास थे जो हम भूल गए, या वो अभी भी वो हमारे लिटरेचर में मौजूद है। इन सबको बचा कर रखना और जहां तक हो सके, जैसे भाई साहब ने कहा, हमारे टेक्स्ट बुक्स को, हमारे सिलेबस को, हमारी पढ़ाई को मातृभाषा में और भारत केंद्रित इसलिए बनाना है, हमारे बच्चों को भारत में रहना है, भारत छोड़कर नहीं जाना, भगोड़ा नहीं बनाना है, हमारे बच्चों को भारत के भद्र नागरिक बनाना है। इन चंद बातों के माध्यम से मैं अपनी बातों को विराम देता हूं। आप सभी को ये मौका देने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। प्रणाम।
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your views. Next, I would like to call upon our third speaker of this session, Professor Annapurna Nautiyal, a Fulbright scholar, is the Vice Chancellor of the HNB Garhwal University, Srinagar. Before taking over as the Vice Chancellor, she was a Professor of Political Science at the HNB Garhwal University. She has been the Dean of the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, member of Executive Council and Academic Council of the HNB Garhwal University. She has held many administrative and academic positions like Head of the Department, Coordinator of the UGC SAP DRS Program, Director, Women's Studies Center, Chairperson, Sexual Harassment Against Women, Coordinator of the Community Development Cell and Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, and Anti-Discrimination Cell of the university. She is also a distinguished visiting scholar in the Department of Public Affairs, Governance, and International Relations of the George Mason University, Virginia, USA. Ma'am, we'd like to hear your views in this session. Thank you, madam. Welcome, madam.
Thank you so much. A very good morning from Garhwal Hills to this August gathering. At the outset, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Pankaj Mittal for inviting me and also hosting this very important talk on Indian language, art, and culture. My pranam to Shri Atul Kothari ji, Dinesh Patnaik ji, Professor Katimani ji. Actually, this is a very interesting topic. And yesterday, when Patnaik ji called, he wanted to know what I'll speak. I was also not sure what I'll speak because I have never studied Indian language, art, and culture. So it's a very learning experience for me also. And I have this this is an opportunity for me to hear Kothari ji, Katimani ji, and Patnaik ji. But I would like to share something which have cropped into my mind. As everyone has emphasized that Indian languages are a great unifying factor, same is culture and art. And this is an example of our development, our progress, and our growth. The inclusion of 22 Indian languages in the 8th schedule of the Constitution is a shining example of this, that how much developed we are as far as the languages go. We heard about Israel. They have only one language, Hebrew. So it's very easy for them to impart education in Hebrew. Japan, they have Japanese. China, they have Chinese language, although there are variations also. So it's very easy. But we have such a diverse language area. And our languages are very old. And here, on a very lighter note, I would like to share with all of you that our languages started with paintings, then pictography, then they became script, then they became language, and ultimately we have entered into this digital era in the form of emojis, where we don't want to say anything, we'll just use emojis just to say thanks or namaste or good morning, or we'll just send flowers. So this is a shortcut which we are adopting, and this shortcut is very, very dangerous for us. This is not going to help us. We are, of course, entering into this digital era, and this is a boon also for us. But then it has to work for our languages. Like we have various languages, and they are very, very ancient. Like earlier, we have only 2 scripts, like Brahmi and Khroshti, and they were very, very old. And as Kothari ji said and Katimani ji said, that our languages, they originate from Sanskrit. But the departments of Sanskrit are not very well off. The school of languages are not very well off. So we need to invest in manpower. We need to invest in strengthening these departments of languages. Then only we can talk about Indian languages and their richness. Here, I would also like to give you one simple example. One student from Germany, he wants to come to Garhwal, and he wants to do some research on the folk, theater, and performing art of Garhwal. And what is he doing? He is learning Hindi, and besides that, he is also trying to learn Garhwali Boli, because Garhwali is not a language, it's a Boli. So that kind of enthusiasm is missing in our students, our faculty, and our people. That's how we are deprived of the richness of the languages which unite us. Like Kothari ji said, we have immense knowledge. Our Vedas, our Puranas, they were not written. They were orally transmitted. They were recited, but they survived from generation to generation until they scripted. They were scripted. And their translation was also done by the Britishers, not by the Indians. So we don't value our languages. The richness of our languages, that is our weakness. And that weakness has to be removed at any cost. And our languages, like we talk about Vedic Sanskrit, classical Sanskrit, Old Ard, Magadhi, Buddhist Sanskrit, the various Prakrits and Aprabhrams, and then came our Indo-Aryan languages. And then the Dravidian was the second most important language, out of which the southern languages emerged, like Kannada, about which Katimaniji was talking, Malayalam, Tamil, and Telugu. But of course, Sanskrit is the mother of all languages. And when we use the Shabd Brahm, it means that each and every single word of any language has a complete sense within it. Now, we are talking about language. Language is a great unifying factor, we already know. But similarly, culture is also a very important unifying factor because it is human made and it emerges in a certain kind of atmosphere. And in India, we have rich cultural traditions which are seen through musics, dances, paintings, sculptures, textile, architecture, and it is one of the most important ancient cultures of world, India's culture. Because we have seen the rise and fall of civilizations like the Egyptian, the Greek, and the Roman civilizations, they destroyed. Only their relics are remained. Why? Because they thrived on the basis of materialism. But we are surviving on the basis of spirituality, which is our core. We believe in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We believe in Sarve Bhavantu Niramaya, Sarve Santu, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashyatu Bhagna Bhavet. We believe in welfare. We believe in panchayat system. We believe in the pride of the nation. We believe in the greatness, tolerance, non-violence, and all these things which are evading from the world. And similarly, the Indian culture is also very, very important. Similarly, the art is also important. You know that the 26 sites are in the list of UNESCO World Heritage Site. But since now we are talking in the context of NEP, so what should be done? Everyone knows that language is very, very important. Indian languages are very important. They are diverse and they have very deep roots in the Indian societies, in the Indian ethos, and they touch us emotionally. But unfortunately, like we teach only Hindi in most of the northern areas, universities or schools. We have MIL, multiple Indian languages, but only Hindi is taught. No Tamil, no Telugu, no Kannada, no Malayalam, no other language is taught. So if we want to revive our languages, if we want to take benefit of the linguistic diversity, we have to have teachers and faculty to teach multiple Indian languages. And that will be done because NEP has a focus on this. Then courses should also be devised to make them interesting by including text, pictures, song, and music. And music is Indian music is very famous, like Karnataki music, and all forms of music are very, very important. So it should be included. And then what about how do we show our culture to the students, to the youth? Because they have no idea about our ancient practices, our ancient culture. So there should be museums. And museums can be opened for schools also in a clustered approach. There is no necessity of opening museum in every school, but it can be taken in a clustered way about which the NEP also talks. And for every university, museum is compulsory, and so that it can expose the students to the ancient culture, art, and literature, so that they know the value of their cultural heritage. And then we can always use audio and visual presentations, and we can always create virtual museums because now we have technology. And I would also like to tell you that Garhwal means a place which is devoted for forts. Garhwal means forts. And in Garhwal, it was earlier said that there are only 52 forts. But recently, one student was conducting his research and he found that there are more than 100 forts. So this fort tourism can be developed. And if we can train local guides in local language or maybe multiple languages, then these forts would be very popular and they will be a source of earning for the local people, for which the NEP also says skill development. This skill can be developed through such kind of courses, such kind of planning, and then learning of at least one Indian language besides Hindi should be made compulsory, and the state and central government should make provision for it. And one or two things more, then I'll end my talk. The local languages should also be used to provide advisories related to health, related to education, or related to weather, because then it will also curtail the menace of fake news. Because the old people, the vulnerable people, the illiterate people, they don't understand the ramifications of these kinds of fake news. So these languages can be used to develop advisories. Then one more important thing is that we have Unicode for Hindi, but we are still to develop Unicode for all the languages, like Odia, like Tamil, like Telugu, like other languages. So they should go into the digital Unicode so that they become accessible. But while using digital mediums, we should also do one thing, because we have been using keyboard too much. And our children, they have forgotten how to write with fingers using pen and paper. And that is also not good, because the script will vanish ultimately. So it is also necessary for all the schools, all the universities to have some kind of essay competition where the students should use pen and paper and they should write, because writing is also an art and it has been developed in India. Because China, if we talk, they only use symbols, but we use script. So this script should not be vanished. So we should also try for this. And then ultimately, I think it will be the people who need to be promoted to value our languages. They should be promoted. And art and culture, which should be done by the institutions, and that too very, very vigorously. So with this, I would like to end, and I would again like to say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma, Kaschit Dukbhag Na Bhavet. And thank you so much, and namaskar to all, and very nice meeting all of you virtually on a digital platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Now, the last speaker of this session is Dr. Joy Shin, who is a professor and head of the Department of Architecture and Regional Planning, Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. Chairman of Museum of Science and Technology and co-chairman Academy of the Classical and Folk Arts, IIT Kharagpur. Earlier, he was head of the Department of Ranbir and Chitragupta School of Infrastructure and Design, IIT Kharagpur. A recipient of several honors, Dr. Joy Shin is a gold medalist in NCERT AISSE gold medal and has been conferred with the Kansas Distinguished Speaker Award from Quantum Group, run jointly by the DEI Agra, University of Michigan, and Stanford University, USA. I would like to call upon Dr. Joy Shin in this session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I hope, namaskar to all of you. I hope you can listen to me, at least if you cannot hear me, if you cannot see me, because I'm just traveling. Yesterday, a very respected Mr. Patnaik sir called me, and I was not really sure about whether I'm going to join, because I came for an emergency project work. So I'm very sorry. Sri Patnaik sir. So I could not really answer. And I was watching the wonderful speech by Madam just before me. So it has set the wonderful stage. I just wanted to confirm, am I audible? Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir, very much. Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. So I think I'm sure because I joined a little late, and I think I'm the least experienced and the most and a relatively younger person in the whole group. So I should be a listener rather than a speaker. So I did not listen to most of the speakers before me, but I assume most of the speeches were of the highest order of importance and expression. So I'll start with a small example, and which was already highlighted by Madam. In India, as contrasted by all of the civilizations in the world, which was highlighted by Madam by just before me, is a civilization which is all. This is a constant, a perception, and it goes back to the 15th chapter of the Gita. There's a description of Bodhi, the Ashwatthara tree, efficacy is here, and they talk about the root and the branches of the tree, which means urdhamulam, adhashwakam. That means the root is above and the branches are coming below. The root is above and the branches are below. This is exactly what Madam is trying to say, that our Indian civilization has come from the highest realization of the rishis, the sages of India. And from there, he just come down to the material order. We have this moral and ethical order, which is produced so many structures or a and so we have
Yes, so
it's
seen, and with the voice is very bad. We are not able to hear you.
yeah, you are not able to hear me. Can you hear me right now?
Yeah,
Yes, better.
it's better to close your video
Oh,
off.
better. Yeah, because I think I should close my video. Yeah. So can you hear me?
Yes, now we can
Yes,
hear
sir.
you.
We
Can
can
you
hear
hear
you,
me?
sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir, we can.
Yeah. So I think I'll try to come to the point. Just let us take two simple examples of two Sanskrit words. Purva and Uttara. Purva means which is east. It's a spatial term, and Uttara, which means north, which is also a space term. But Purva and Uttara also means past and the future. So most of the words that we have in India has a space and time connotation. It's a spatio-temporal language which was created by our rishis thousands and thousands of years back. And then the most important thing is that this word has recurred in our culture, in our art again and again, and also in our literature. If we come to literature, then the entire Samaveda is based on the Purva Archika and the Uttara Archika. And it is continuous even up to Kalidas, where he talks about the Purva Meg and the Uttara Meg. When we come to art, they are the cardinal directions of the mandala, starting from the Vastu Purusha mandala to the Kal Chakra mandala to the Bodha mandala to the Vajra mandala. And if we come to culture, then it also symbolizes what the Isha Upanishad says in the last sloka, which is Om Kratu Smara Krita Smara, which means remember what was done in the past and act accordingly what shall be done in the future. So just look at this, that simple term, a couplet of two terms, which is Purva and Uttara, it runs throughout our art forms, throughout our language forms, and our culture. In other words, whether it is art or Nandantvatta or literature, which is Shastra, linguistics, and Bhasha, and whether it is culture, which is Sanskriti, actually belongs to a original bedrock, original foundation of Indian spirituality. This is what Madam was trying to highlight. Now, the problem and the issue is because of the intervening 1,500 years of foreign invasions, and particularly the last 250 years, we have been divorced systematically from this root and the foundation. And we have believed that whatever has come from the West is the only scientific thing, and whatever we have inherited from the past is perhaps superstition and backward, without really looking at it scientifically. So at IIT Kharagpur, Professor Indranil Sengupta and many others, and even Dr. Atul Kothari ji knows that we have done a systematic research for the last 10 years or so. I personally have been working on this for almost 30 years as a very ordinary person. So we have produced a lot of small books, publications, exhibitions, evidences, journal papers, which proves that this Indian civilization is perhaps more than 20,000 years old. I'll give you another example. About 1930s, an expedition came from Yale University and Cambridge, which was led by Professor Helmut Tara and Professor Pierre Chardin, who was very close to Sri Aurobindo in Pondicherry. And they found out 20,000 years old because they could not date it as Mesolithic or Neolithic, but they called it a very advanced Neolithic civilization in the valleys of Narmada and in the Salt Valley, which is eastern Indus Valley. And there they found evidences of some civilization in certain way. But then because of the World War, the evidences of the civilization has been suppressed. Very recently, solar diagrams have been found out in Ratnagiri, which is in the Konkan coast, and they date back to 12,000 BC, which makes Indian civilization about 14,000 years old. The seals of Indus Valley, the seals, the terracotta art, culture, script, hieroglyphic seals of Indus Valley reveals the seven dancing girls, which is Saptamatrika, or you can say the Kritikas of Indian civilization. The Vedic swasti or the swastika, which are the four cardinal directions of the Saptarshi around the pole star, is actually the symbol of swastika, which is there in the Indus Valley from 5000 BC, which means about 7,000 years old. And we can go on like this. So if these are all true, then the Aryan invasion myth, which has entered our school books in a very important way to disturb the Indian psyche and the young souls and making them nationally underconfident, must be eradicated. So what Sir was saying before, Madam, we need to systematically reorganize our textbooks, the books on geography, about the Mahajanapadas, the books of history about the dates, the books of anthropology about Indian culture, the books of culture itself on Indian Sanskriti, the books of art, iconography, semantics, and semiotics, based on the discovery of all little evidences which I just mentioned. They need to come in the books at class 4, class 7, class 9, class 11, at IIT and all the institutions of India, and that should be a portion. And this is something which the national education policy, the government of India, has exactly done. So I think you all know we are very lucky that Honorable Minister Nishangji has actually given us a hukumat to open up a comprehensive center of Indian knowledge system, भारतीय वैज्ञानिक संस्कृति का जो चर्चा और अनुसंधान का जो प्रक्रिया, उसके ऊपर we are soon opening up a comprehensive center on Arthashastra, on Jyotish and Mahajagatik Tattva, which is Indian cosmology, on Bhasha and Sangeet, on iconography, which is Indian Ankan Vidya, on music and classical systems, on aesthetic systems. It's so important, the areas on which Acharya Abanindranath Thakur, Gurudev Rabindranath Thakur, they all worked. We need to include the text written by Acharya Abanindranath Thakur as the principal textbooks, just not having a book written by a British like James Ferguson or Percy Brown. Those books are fine, but they cannot be the only books. They cannot be the only books that we teach in our school. So these cannot be achieved in 2 years or 5 years. We need to have a systematic, concerted, and continuous effort of transforming, revolutionizing our Indian heritage system, conservation system, our Indian knowledge system. So this is actually the need of the hour. And in this, we should have an open mind. We should also take some of the best things that we have learned from the West. For example, I'll just end with 2 or 3 other examples. For example, the entire Western science is based on the law of causation, which is y is equal to fx. Like you have an input of x into an equation and you get an output. So this is the foundation of physics. This is the foundation of biological science. This is the foundation of all computational science. Now the law of causation was the foundation of Indian science, which is the foundation of the Nasadiya Sutta of the Rig Veda. I mean, something comes out of nothing. Something only comes out of something. Something produces. Purva Kalpas, or the previous cycles of creation, has led to the present cycles of creation. And the present cycles of creation will lead to the future cycles of creation. This has become the Pratit Samutpad of Buddhism and all other treatises of even Nagarjuna and others. Somebody has dealt it from an agnostic point of view, and somebody has dealt it from a Gnostic point of view. That is not so important. But in the Vedas, more important than gods are the god of gods, the rishis of India. And more important than the rishis of India is the law of causation, because it is the law of causation which is the cornerstone of Indian civilization. In the words of Swami Vivekananda, if you read his wonderful seminar talk, The Historical Evolution of India, Swamiji starts that the law of causation is the cornerstone of Indian civilization. It is the rhythm which is sung by the Aryan rishis, and it is the cornerstone, and it is the yardstick based on which everything happens. And that is the Newton's third law of motion. And that is actually the change that is depicted in the Carnot cycle. When you move from a heat to a colder portion, and from the colder portion to a heat portion, that externally happens in the iteration of winter and summer. And it exactly happens between inside in a refrigerator. And that is actually the principle of Agni and Soma, which is igneous principle and somatic principle. The law of thermodynamics is the foundation of the Vedas, which is the combination of the solar current and the lunar current, which is also the foundation of the tantras, the systems of branches. And that is why all the words of India, like Ganatantra, the systems of democracy, the system of republic, Prajatantra, or Tantra Shastras or Tantra Sangama, which is the foundation of mathematics, they have all evolved from a single body of truth. So this is the scientific understanding that we need to bring in the forefront and transform our entire Indian way of looking at India itself. And this is the dream of Mahatma Gandhiji. This is the dream of Sri Aurobindo. This is the dream of Lokmanya Balagangadhar Tilak. This is also the dream of Madan Mohan Malviya ji. And this is the eternal dream of Swami Vivekananda and Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. So taking blessings from all these great minds and all the rishis that we have in India, the Sapta rishis, very recently we have produced a calendar from IKS, which has become a little popular all over the world. And very soon we are going to open up a museum of IKS at IIT Kharagpur. We are going to have a gallery perhaps just within 1 month. So once the gallery is open, we'll give you the electronic link to have a glimpse of it. We are concentrating on all the 12 domains of Indian knowledge systems, from Artha Shastra to Jyotish Shastra, especially the Vedangas of India, which is Nirukta, which is Chanda, which is Jyotish, which is Kalpa. The Kalpa Sutras actually is the foundation of Indian mathematics. And I'll end with this. The entire foundation of science is indebted to India, which is actually the idea of Advaitam, or unity, which is one, and the idea of Shunya, which is zero. So 0 and 1, and 1 and 0, Professor Sengupta is here, is the foundation of binary mathematical systems and the entire computational science which is today. So this is the continuity. So that means it is just not a nostalgia of the past, but it is the perfect relevance of Indian science, technology, founded on Indian art, culture, and language, which is further founded on Indian spirituality, which is the root, which is the moolam. So that is why the Gita says, Urdha moolam, adha shwakam. The entire knowledge tree of Indian system actually derives its life, its continuous sustainability from its spiritual roots, not as a philosophy in books, but as yoga darshana, as being and becoming. So the rishis became what they believed. Brahmaiva, Brahmavida bhavati. That means the Brahmavids, by believing and meditating upon Brahman, became Brahman themselves. So this is the foundation of Indian participatory science, which matches perfectly with the ideas of quantum physics and quantum relativistic electrodynamics today, which is not a dualistic reductionist theory, but it is an integral foundational science. So this is the complete strength of Indian knowledge system, which needs to be shared with the whole world. The sharing has already started, and it has been recognized by more countries outside India. So the need of the hour today is to bring that back into our Indian curriculum and have textbooks, classes, lectures, exhibitions, museums, monograph, discussions, mobile and work together, not on the foundation of competition, but as Gandhiji said, on the foundations of cooperation. So we should first become the change that we like to see outside, that Gandhiji says. So this is the change that the rishis of India, the rishis, the Sapta rishis, and the thousands and the thousands and the thousands of rishis that we have in India who expects this change, which is just not intellectual, but it is also realizational, spiritual. So we need to bring this, the scientific foundations, the works of Yogananda Paramahansa ji, the works of Muktananda ji, the works of Ramana Maharshi, all the sages of India has to be brought into the scientific foundation. So with these words, and offering my pranam to this august gathering, I really thank for this beautiful gathering, and I hope I was audible. And this is my little humble expectation from a huge sambhavana, a huge opportunity which lies in the future. Namaste, pranam. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Now this session is open for discussion and suggestion. I would request our participants, if anyone wants to put their suggestion or any observation, he or she can talk here. Thank you.
Dr. Chaudhary, now the time is less. We may request Dr. Dinesh Patnaik to take over, give his observations and conclude.
Sri Patnaik, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Pankaj Mittalji. It's always nice to see you. And this is a wonderful session that you have organized. A lot of brilliant ideas. And I like the passion of some of the speakers, especially Professor Joy Sen and Professor Nautiyal, all of whom really brought passion into the discussions today. There is no debate that language, culture, arts need to be integrated into education system. I mean, our Indian traditional knowledge systems, all that we have done, all these speakers agreed that we need to bring it together. All students in India need to learn about everything, whether it's the traditional knowledge systems of India, whether it's the culture of India, whether it's the heritage of India, or whether how the different states are. Sorry, am I audible now? Yeah.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
So the emphasis is on bringing together culture, art, and language into. So all the speakers spoke about it, and I'm happy that it was unanimous. The emphasis of all the speakers was on languages, which was natural. There was only, I think, Professor Nautiyal who spoke a little about culture, and Professor Sen who ventured into heritage of India more than into the culture of India. But language is important, and I agree with Professor Kothari very much that most of our ancient texts, most of our knowledge systems are in Sanskrit. And so if we do not know Sanskrit, it will be very difficult for us to understand. Most of the translation of our ancient works have been done by foreigners and not by Indians. In fact, we have a huge lack of Sanskrit teachers in the country today. When Uttarakhand made Sanskrit as the second language of the state, We still have 35,000 posts of Sanskrit teachers which are not being able to be filled up because we do not have that many teachers. So, there is a whole lot of work that we need to do in Sanskrit. Even today, there is no Google Translator for Sanskrit. I mean, Google Translator has for every other language, but not for Sanskrit. And Sanskrit, if you remember, was touted and still being told by many people as being the language of the computers because it is so specific, so precise that it is a computer language. But look at us, for the last 20 years, we have heard that it is a language of the computers, but not a single line of code has been written in Sanskrit as yet. And it is today University of Toronto, which is doing the first line of code in Sanskrit. What I'm saying is our education system really needs to get up and work on these things. We keep on talking about the need to integrate everything into our system, but I don't know where the first step or who will take the first step. Hopefully the NEP 2020 will give us the incentive to take the first step. Some good news here, ICCR is actually coming out with the first ever gamified Sanskrit app to teach Sanskrit. By next month, I should be able to launch it, which will be the first gamified app across the world to learn Sanskrit. That, Dr. Mittal, I will work with you to see how we can take it to the universities also. So we will work on that. But the other thing is, when we're talking about languages, some of the speakers spoke about how Indian students abroad learn Chinese and Russian to learn medical system, which is actually not true because most of them learn Chinese while doing the medical and engineering in English in those countries. Very few people, except for very small quantity of people, learn the language and then study in it. While studying, they learn the language, which is what we should also be doing with all our foreign students, which is making it mandatory for them to learn Indian languages. But languages is a very sensitive topic, and I'm glad Professor Nautiyal raised it. While we make it mandatory for other languages, which is Odia, Kannada, Tamil, everybody to learn Hindi as a third language, we still haven't made it mandatory for the Hindi belt to speak other languages as mandatory. If you are doing a 3-language formula, you have to ensure if there is equity and a feeling that there is fairness in the system, that the system has to be such that people from languages which are Hindi based should be able to learn languages of other countries or other states. But here I come to the other point which I have been emphasizing for a long time. It's important for us to teach our children foreign languages. More than taking Hindi abroad or Sanskrit abroad, which will happen when our economy actually becomes an attraction for people to learn Hindi and other languages to work in our country or to do business with our country, which is the reason why Chinese became popular. Chinese didn't become popular because it was a great language. It became popular because there was an economic benefit for people to be learning that language. Same with India. When it becomes economically beneficial for foreigners to learn a language, then they will learn it automatically. We don't have to force them to learn a language or to attract them to learn the language. It comes automatically. Or when our educational system becomes so vibrant that studying in Indian universities becomes the sine qua non for foreign students, they will learn Hindi or other languages to come to India. But before that, we need to make sure that our people learn foreign languages. For our people to open up their eyes to the world, the windows to the world, we need them to learn foreign languages because that is the way you open up the minds of the world. That's a debate for a different time and different system. Professor Kattimani said very well that Indian knowledge systems are important to put in. But more than Indian knowledge systems, our universities which are spread across India need to incorporate teaching of local knowledge systems into their curriculum so that the students learn about local knowledge systems, whether in the Northeast, whether in the South, whether in the North, wherever. If you are a university and around you there are tribal societies, traditional societies which have traditional knowledge systems, it is important for the university to act as a catalyst or as a crucible to allow those systems to be taught to the students and to do research on that. That's a very important point Professor Kattimani did, and I'm glad he did it. On culture, one of the few things we talked about is to make it mandatory. We still haven't made it mandatory in schools. School curriculums do not have culture as a mandatory part to do. Students are not told that if you are doing music or arts or theater or any other thing, that you have to have one form that you learn. Imagine the kind of impetus the system will get if every student had to learn a single art form. Similarly, we need to integrate the Indian ethos and Indian culture in a higher education systems. We need to have curriculums and courses which integrate into all our university systems on Indian knowledge systems, and this again should be made mandatory. I will not take up much time, but I like Professor Kothari's suggestion that we do this in a phased manner, step by step, because that is what is important, because we cannot jolt the system and make it start doing it immediately. It has to be done slowly. And why slowly? Because we need to have the appropriate curriculum, the appropriate pedagogy, the proper courses, the proper research has to be done into getting out what the courses should be. For example, we talk about languages, but we still do not have a single interpretation center in India. There is no curriculum for interpretation. There is for translation. There is for everything. But we don't produce interpreters in India. When Prime Minister did the last major summit in India, we couldn't find enough interpreters in India. We had to get interpreters from outside to interpret. I mean, there is the talk of having an Indian Institute of Interpretation and Translation, but there is no curriculum for interpretation as yet. So similarly, for many other things, we need to produce curriculum. If you are going to do what Professor Sen said and bring all the Indian traditional systems and the scientific systems into our present-day mainstream, we need to devise curriculum for it. Along with the curriculum, we need to have training for adequate number of instructors, trainers, professors. Not just that, managers. We need culture managers. We need language managers. We need people to manage the system. We do not have them. There is very few culture management courses in India. Most culture management course is not a part of our IM curriculum. Nobody says manage arts, manage culture. How do we do it? So these are things we need to bring in. So the step-by-step process is at every step: curriculum, the adequate capacity building, proper policy framework to make it mandatory for universities to do certain things, and funding. I mean, at the end of the day, it boils down to funding. How do you get the money? Now, whether you cannot depend on government, so you'll have to have a system where you allow funding coming in from private sector, from philanthropic organizations, private institutions, every other. They have to help fund this curriculum transformation. For example, the Sanskrit app I'm taking at, we're getting it all privately funded. If you do it government funded, you know how the system is. It's going to take a long time and there's never enough money. And the last, which I'm going to come to, is technology. We have to use technological system. The world has changed. The world is no more the world of the 20th century. It's the world of the 21st century. And our technology institutes have to become the point where we take our culture forward. They're both ways. The technology institutes have to bring in Indian culture into their training, but they have to use technology to see how you can propagate our culture, our language, our arts better. And today, we do not have to stick to a particular institution. The online format, the internet gives you a wide scope to teach millions of Indians at the same time if you can have the proper system, the proper platform on board. Modern technology, modern platforms can reach out to millions. Education systems have to change. The world has changed, but we're still teaching in the same chalk and blackboard systems. There is slightly, the chalk and blackboard has probably been replaced by the computer and the screen, but the system remains the same way of teaching. We need to go online. We need to get people to learn at their own things. And this is important because unless we use technology, we will not be able to do what we are planning to do. And I will quote Professor Sen at the end, which is when he spoke about Tantra, because Tantra in Sanskrit means weaving together. It also means text, theory, systems, but we need to weave everything together. If we have to integrate language, arts, and culture into a system, it has to be woven into the fabric of what the higher education institutions teach. It cannot be a separate thing that, we will bring in culture later. It is not a separate thing. It is an intrinsic part of how to develop the country. And unless we do that, we will fail in our efforts at making India a country of the 21st century. The NEP 2020 gives us an option, a chance now to change the way things happen. And I hope all of us who are listening today and all who work in higher educational institutions will take this forward and make it a part of our system. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. May I speak?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. This is Professor Ranjit Kumar Verma, Vice Chancellor, Munger University. Two things are coming to my mind. Number one, we have to, in this context that we are having today, we have to give emphasis on traditional knowledge, how how to introduce the subject and how to teach traditional knowledge and how to train them. Number one. Number two, there are many aspects of science in which we can do. For example, if we have a paper or we have a topic or we have a subject like history of science, on which unfortunately in India we could not give much emphasis in the past, we can have a separate subject or separate topic or separate some credit points should be assigned to it under CBCS. And there's two things must be incorporated in our curricula. Number one, history of science for science students, and particularly if the student is choosing anything as core subject, the history of science is with reference to that core subject should be given preference. And second thing, there must be some idea about the traditional knowledge, and the regional emphasis should also be there. So I think every university should work out the component of the curricula which could be incorporated under the CBCS pattern, taking these two things. Otherwise, what happens? For example, I had some experience about 10 to 15 years. I had experience in formulating or designing or developing curricular material in NCERT. There used to be much emphasis on history of science. Many things are there in the curriculum which are not relevant today, but the students ought to know those things for development of for conceptual development, but they are outdated now. So those things, if they are there, they are in the curriculum, they simply give much burden on the volume. They add to the quantity of the curriculum, which is not very much favorable, very much, which are not liked by the student. But if we separate it, give it an optional look, there could be a subject, there could be some small capsule courses, for example, 3 or 5 credit points on history of science, and for science faculty students, it could be a good idea. And similarly, for others, even for science also, under CBCS, under the NEP that we are discussing these days, we can have some course materials on traditional knowledge. For example, it can have one component like heritage tourism. For example, the Chokidana system tourism in that hotel in near Jaipur in Rajasthan. I think everyone is very fond of it. In Punjab also, many development has taken place, but unfortunately in Bihar and other places, we are not giving idea about the traditional knowledge and folks and other things, traditional food and other things, the cultural aspects. The students are not exposed. Unless they are exposed, they cannot find any science in it. So traditional knowledge can have many components. Heritage tourism can be one of it. And then a history of science could be a separate topic, a separate subject. And for these things, we can have some small credit, not lengthy paper, small credit points, so students from all disciplines are attracted and get benefit, and they have some preliminary idea. After that, after which they will be attracted and they will go deeper and deeper into this aspect. Thank you very much.
Respected Pathakji, can I speak, take 2 minutes? Hello?
Hello, yeah?
Chairperson is there?
Yes, yes, I'm here.
Okay, can I just have simple one suggestion and one observation? Please. I think maybe it was a fantastic session today, and I think I have learned a lot from this particular session. But at the same time, the task force of NEP in Assam, as well as 100% for the NEP and the language part, which has been discussed thoroughly today, I have certain observation and certain suggestions also. Probably as a student of management, I have suggestion, because you're talking about technology and we are talking about language, but management also plays a very important role in bridging two together. So that is my component. So I will probably give one suggestion there. But there are almost 19 or 20 or more than that Sanskrit universities in India. And the first one was established in 1791, that is Sampurnanand Sanskrit University. And fortunately, I was associated with that because I was in NSS program, and Acharya, Upacharya and Pracharya, they used to come for the training with us. तो उस समय मुझे याद है उनको बहुत मुश्किल होता था कन्विंस करना हिंदी में और इवन अंग्रेजी में कोई ट्रेनिंग देना, और वो कहते थे कि हमें तो संस्कृत में पढ़ाइए, और हम लोगों ने संस्कृत बहुत उनसे सीखी और उन्होंने बहुत सारी हिंदी और अंग्रेजी हमसे सीखी शायद। लेकिन मैं करिकुलम की बात करूंगा, उस समय संस्कृत में संपूर्णानंद संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालय की बात कर रहा हूँ, बहुत लिमिटेड एरिया में शायद रिसर्च डोमेन था। बाकी सारा विश्वविद्यालय जो है या तो वो ज्योतिषाचार्य की तरफ ओरिएंटेड था, ज्योतिष की तरफ, या फिर वो बहुत कुछ मेरे हिसाब से जो कर्म कांड और हम लोग वो कार्य करते हैं उसमें था, और सारे लोगों का जो उद्देश्य था वो फर्क था। तो हमें सबसे पहले शायद आउटकम बेस्ड संस्कृत यूनिवर्सिटीज की बात करनी चाहिए। आउटकम बेस्ड करिकुलम है, आउटकम बेस्ड सब कुछ है। तो ये जो 19-20 हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी है उनके आउटकम में जो शायद कोठारी साहब भी कह रहे थे और सभी लोग कह रहे थे, हमें ये देखना है कि हमारा इंटरप्रिटेशन का पार्ट, रिसर्च का पार्ट, डोमेन का पार्ट, साइंस का पार्ट जो हम अपने एंशिएंट कल्चर से, पाली संस्कृत से ले सकते हैं, वो हम एक आउटकम बेस्ड सेटअप करें हमारे संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालय में। दूसरी बात ये थी कि हम और विश्वविद्यालयों में कोई भी लैंग्वेजेस की बात करें उससे पहले हमें एक टाइमलाइन, जो सबसे बड़ी बात है, टाइमलाइन तैयार करनी चाहिए। ये मेरा मैनेजमेंट का कंपोनेंट है, और उन सारे यूनिवर्सिटीज में और सारे कॉलेजेस में स्टेप बाय स्टेप कैसे हम किस लेवल पे, और स्पेशली स्कूल एजुकेशन में जहां से कि सारे लैंग्वेजेस आएंगी ऊपर, और जहां पे हम समझते हैं कि जब स्टूडेंट हमारे पास हायर एजुकेशन में आएगा तो वो 2-3 लैंग्वेजेस में पारंगत होगा, तो शायद उसके लिए इंटरप्रिटेशन करना भी, साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट भी, सारी चीजें आसान होंगी। तो स्कूल कंपोनेंट ज्यादा है, बट हमारे लेवल पे भी शायद हमें डिफरेंट तरह की यूनिवर्सिटीज को एम्फसाइज करके एक मास्टर प्लान बनाना चाहिए टाइमलाइन के साथ कि कैसे, क्योंकि अभी भी एनईपी में आने के बावजूद भी, और हम सबके दिमाग में, मेरे में तो शायद नहीं है बट बहुतों के दिमाग में अभी इसको लेके एक्सेप्टेंस नहीं हुआ है। सबसे पहला काम हमें करना चाहिए, जो आईसीसीआर का भी है, हम सबका है, कि हम लोगों के दिमाग में एक व्हाइट पेपर लाके कि इस लैंग्वेज से लैंग्वेज टू लैंग्वेज आउटकम, संस्कृत के आउटकम क्या होंगे, पाली के आउटकम क्या होंगे, कन्नड़ के आउटकम क्या होंगे, और जो भी लैंग्वेज लोकल है, अगर वो ट्राइबल लैंग्वेज है तो उसके आउटकम क्या है। तो हम सबको मिक्स नहीं करें, सबको अलग अलग करके विस्तार करें। तो दिस इज माय हम्बल सजेशन और मैं भी एन ऑब्जर्वेशन। थैंक यू गुड, थैंक यू सो मच पाठक साहब, थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you very much, Professor Singh. Is there anybody else who would like to say something, or should we? Professor Kothari?
नहीं, मैं ये कहना चाहता था कि जो स्कूल लेवल की बात आई है, तो स्कूल लेवल पर ये सारे प्रावधान इसमें किए गए हैं पॉलिसी में। मुझे लगता है कि कई बार ऐसा होता है, मैं किसी पर टिप्पणी नहीं कर रहा हूँ, क्षमा करिए, कि हायर एजुकेशन के लोग हायर एजुकेशन का स्टडी करते हैं, तो ऐसा न करते हुए टोटलिटी के पॉलिसी अगर स्टडी करेंगे तो उसमें स्कूल एजुकेशन से ही सारा ये स्टार्ट किया गया है। वहाँ स्ट्रक्चरल चेंज है, वहाँ पेडागोजिकल चेंज है, वहाँ करिकुलम चेंजेस है, इस सब प्रकार के चेंजेस वहाँ किए गए हैं, और इसी के बेस पर फिर हायर एजुकेशन पर लोग आएंगे। तो ये जो कनेक्ट करना है स्कूल एजुकेशन हायर एजुकेशन, इसके बारे में मुझे लगता है गंभीरता से सोचने की आवश्यकता है कि हायर एजुकेशन लेवल पर जो सिलेबस या हायर एजुकेशन पर जो सिस्टम डेवलप होती है वो स्कूल एजुकेशन से कनेक्ट होनी चाहिए। तो मुझे लगता है कि बहुत फ्रूटफुल होगा ये। तो इस तरह से इसका विचार मुझे लगता है करना चाहिए। तो स्कूल लेवल पर सारी बातें है ही।
Very well said, Professor. The school becomes a feeder into the university, but university has to take a different way of doing it. नहीं, सही बताया। Anybody else would like to say anything? Professor?
May I? I'm Dr. Grewal, Vice Chancellor, Sikkim Manipal University. Should I wait for my turn, or is it a good time to talk?
Yeah, Professor Grewal, you say, and then Professor Nautiyal would like to step in.
Okay, so clearly this 2-day program has been a quantum value addition to our perspective, to our ability to comprehend the challenges, as also the way forward in addressing education as enunciated in the National Education Policy. Our request is that under the banner of the AIU, with support from various organizations, we've held many such programs. If there could be a web link that is provided to each of these, then it would be a quantum value addition to our perspective, and also be archived as a repository in our ability to see that we align and reconfigure our academic and educational initiatives in conformity with the vision of the AIU and the UGC and as per the mandate of the NEP. With this, I'd like to express our profound gratitude for what has been an excellent program over 2 days. Thank you ever so much. And I hope we would be provided the web links, because some of us, due to clashing commitments, missed out on a few sessions, and hence this would be a very good positive for all of us. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you,
Can
Professor.
I have a comment, please?
Professor Goswami, just wait. Professor Nautiyal will wanted to speak, and then after that you can come in.
Okay, very nice.
Professor Nautiyal, you have to unmute yourselves. हाँ ठीक है अभी बोलिए
I fully agree with what Kothari ji said, because school is also feeder, and the higher education they'll get students from school only. But I just wanted to chip in that I am also part of that the committee which was given the responsibility of framing the imaginative and flexible curricula. And so some of the professor was talking about indigenous knowledge and practices. He was talking about that how we would go about that. So we have devised 13 model curricula, and they are all interdisciplinary. And one of the model is on indigenous knowledge and practices. Although we have taken the Himalayan region, but that can be taken in other regions also. And here we have talked about the basic concepts of cultural heritage, indigenous agriculture system, indigenous system of management of natural resources, indigenous system of medicine and healthcare, indigenous knowledge of food and cuisine, indigenous knowledge of architecture, tourism practice, like that. And so we have devised all courses like certificate course, diploma course, and then bachelor degree course and master's degree course. So I think the national education policy is looking into each and every aspect. Each and every aspect, and these are only models, and they can be developed later on by the experts.
Excellent.
So, yeah, that's what I wanted to say, that I fully share जो कोठारी जी ने कहा कि स्कूल से तो हमें ये चेंज लाना है, क्योंकि जब हम स्कूल में इस तरह का परिवर्तन लाएंगे तो अपने आप हायर एजुकेशन में रिफ्लेक्ट हो आएगा। तो उसके लिए थोड़ा टाइम फ्रेम हमें भी चाहिए, तो इसलिए हमने कहा है कि 2022 तक हम इसको कर पाएंगे काम को, इससे पहले होना थोड़ा मुश्किल है। तो मेरी कोठारी जी के साथ पूरी सहमति और मेरा नमस्कार भी है उन्हें। Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Nautiyal. Professor Goswami, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, in 70s when we studied in schools, that time Sanskrit was always there. But when this higher secondary came to class 8 onwards, that time the Sanskrit was abolished and ultimately we couldn't do it. But now, so that's more or less 50 years gone, and the digitalization has taken place all over the world. So what I'm just thinking that while listening to the discussions, maybe via NCERT, if we can develop certain courses to teach Sanskrit even by online, so that sort of course and programs, if it can be designed, I think students will be, especially some students will be interested, and if that is given as additional weightage to them, I think many of them will try, because nowadays many private schools and they are very good in this digital system also. And very, very nice to learn that ICCR is developing an app to learn Sanskrit, so that will be probably a good help. And once it comes out, I am pretty sure that in my university, I will certainly try to use that app and then try to do something in this regard.
Thank you,
So,
Professor Goswami.
I was benefited by the talk.
We are very excited about the Sanskrit app, and I'm sure it will work out. Professor Verma, BC Munger University, wanted to speak.
Yeah, thank you. अभी माननीय अतुल भाई ने बड़ा अच्छा सुझाव दिया। वो स्कूली शिक्षा पे भी हमें ध्यान देना है, दायित्व भी है और हमारे लिए भी हितकर है, क्योंकि वहाँ अच्छाई होगी, प्रगति होगी तो हमारे यहाँ भी वो लागू अच्छे तरीके से होगा। मेरा सुझाव है, हमने ये प्रयोग किया है यहाँ मुंगेर में, कि हर एक महाविद्यालय, अगर एफिलेटेड यूनिवर्सिटी है हमारी की तरह, नहीं तो विभाग अगर सिर्फ टीचिंग यूनिवर्सिटी है तो टीचिंग रिसर्च का ही है, तो हम विचार कर सकते हैं, प्रयास कर सकते हैं कि हर एक संस्थान, उस शिक्षा के संस्थान 2 या 2 से अधिक या 1 या 2 विद्यालय को एडॉप्ट करें, गोद लें, उसमें अपने अच्छे उत्कृष्ट विद्यार्थियों को वहां प्रेरित करें जाकर के पढ़ाने के लिए, मदद करने के लिए, और वहां के सबसे अच्छे वहां गतिविधियों का केंद्र बनावे अपने, उन्हें प्रेरित करें, और वहां के उत्कृष्ट विद्यार्थियों को परीक्षाफल के परिणाम के बाद उन्हें आप अपने यहाँ एडमिशन में सुविधा दें, पुस्तक दें या और मदद करें। इस तरीके से उससे संपर्क स्थापित होगा और हमारा कैचमेंट एरिया बड़ा मजबूत होगा। अपने एरिया के अगर 2 या 2 से अधिक स्कूलों को अगर हम ले लें, हर एक महाविद्यालय इस तरीके से लेते हैं, तो प्रभाव पड़ता है और हमारे लिए कैचमेंट मिलता है।
थैंक यू, बहुत अच्छा आइडिया। एनीबडी एल्स वुड वांट टू स्पीक बिकॉज़ वी आर रनिंग आउट ऑफ टाइम।
एक विषय पर सारी यूनिवर्सिटी में अगर काम, जैसे भारतीय नॉलेज सिस्टम की बात है तो देश में 1000 यूनिवर्सिटी है, तो एक यूनिवर्सिटी एक सब्जेक्ट पर अगर काम स्टार्ट करे, इसका कोऑर्डिनेशन थोड़ा AIU द्वारा करना चाहिए, तो हम विद इन 3 इयर्स सारे सब्जेक्ट पर 1000 सब्जेक्ट पर बहुत इन डिटेल प्लान करके सिलेबस भी तैयार कर सकते हैं और टेक्स्ट बुक भी आधार पर तैयार हो जाएगा। तो एक यूनिवर्सिटी एक सब्जेक्ट कॉन्सेंट्रेट करे, ये प्लान अगर हो जाएगा तो बहुत अच्छा रिजल्ट इसका मिल सकता है।
दैट्स अ वेरी गुड आइडिया प्रोफेसर कोठारी, रियली वेरी गुड आइडिया, बिकॉज यही इंपॉर्टेंट है कि सब मिलके करें, बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस शेयर करें, और हर यूनिवर्सिटी एक एक टॉपिक को लेके करिकुलम और पेडागोगी बनाए, तो बहुत अच्छा आइडिया है, वेरी वेरी गुड आइडिया। We should take it. And Dr. Mittal, I think you would be one of the few people who should coordinate it, because being the Association of Indian Universities, you would be able to do it much better than anybody else. Anybody else would like to chip in?
Can I say something, sir? Yeah.
Please go ahead.
This is Joy from IIT Kharagpur. Yeah. I was in this wonderful discussion, and lots of pranam to Kothari ji, sir. This is absolutely wonderful. So I think if we can take 1 or 2 small action plans on the language systems of India in its relationship to the ICAS, like mathematics and what are the language systems and the literature available which is supporting Indian mathematics, Indian music, and what are the documentations with regard to the text and the shastras and folk tales, and small fables that we have in different languages, and how it has penetrated the folk, the tribal systems of India.
Dr.
Yes.
Sen, these are hundreds of ideas everybody has, and I'm really delighted at this. Only thing what we need is those who have ideas, why don't you all put it to the AIU so that somebody can collate it together, and like Professor Kothari said, we can then distribute it to universities which are interested in producing the curriculum and the course content.
Sure,
so
sir.
All of the
Sure,
professors, all the people could send in the ideas of what all you need to do. We can collate it together and probably move forward on that. That's a very, very good suggestion. Anybody else would like to say something? If not, I think we are coming to the end of our time. It's already going to be 12:30 anytime. And I would like to place and record my real appreciation for the way this session has gone, starting with our keynote speaker, Professor Kothari, who gave a brilliant dispensation on what we need to do. All the other speakers, Professor Nautiyal, Professor Joyce Sen, and Professor Katimani, gave wonderful suggestions. We had very good discussions on this also from the different professors across the country. What has come out of this, that we really need to work together to ensure that culture, language, and arts becomes an integral part of our system, whether it is at the school level or at the higher education level. We have to start with the school level because, as Professor Kothari said, they are the feeder level into the higher education system. But the higher education system also has a responsibility to design the things for the other, for the schools and for its own systems. Because it's at the higher education system that you will have to have the pedagogy and the curriculum and the course content and the systems being produced. Research has to be done on these. We will need to all work together. This is a clarion call that we have to everybody to step up and do this. We have been for too long talking about integrating Indian knowledge systems, Indian traditional culture and heritage into our system. We haven't done it. If we continue talking about it, the Zoom gives us another mechanism to continue talking about it or to do something about it. So let's today resolve to do something about it. I thank everybody, all the participants, all the speakers, and all the listeners for the time they've given. And I thank Dr. Mittal for bringing together this wonderful group for this system. Thank you very much, and namaskar, everybody. Have a great day.
Namaskar, sabhi ko namaskar.
Thank you, sir. We would like to acknowledge our esteemed speaker, Sri Dinesh K. Patnaik, chairman of the session. We are truly honored by the presence of Sri Atul Kothari as keynote speaker, who took the time out of his busy schedule. We are truly humbled by the presence of Professor T.V. Kattimani, Professor Annapurna Nautiyal, and Professor Joy Sen as distinguished speaker of this session. Thank you once again. Respected delegates, now it is time for AIU business session. I request all of you to be present in this session. I do request Secretary General Madam to please take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary. After a very, very exciting session on promotion of art and culture, we are now moving on to AIU business session. In this AIU business session, what we do is that we normally give what all we have done throughout the year, because every year we hold these oral conferences. So whatever sort of report of the activities of AIU, we share with our vice chancellors. And if there are some suggestions are there, we readily, graciously take those suggestions from our esteemed vice chancellors. And in case there is an issue which is to be taken up by the government, or there are some issues which you want us to discuss with the government or amongst ourselves, that can be done in this business session. Therefore, it is aptly named as business session. So because the time is less, I'll just straight away talk. I'll share my screen with about the PPT. I mean, I have made a PPT on what all we have done. So are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Very well, madam.
I'm trying to move to slideshow. Is it the slideshow or no?
Ma'am, you just put on that container clicked on. Ma'am, where exactly the Zoom button is there? Beside of that. The left and right side.
Left side?
Right side, ma'am. Beside that, ma'am.
This one? Okay.
No, ma'am. After that.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome, ma'am.
Thanks for the assistance. So I would like to mention about what all recent initiatives have been taken by the AIU in past. We have the president of AIU, Dr. Tej Pratap ji, with us. We have the vice president, Dr. G. Thiruvasagam, with us. And we have some GC members. Dr. Nautiyal is our GC member. There are many more. And we do have the vice chancellors of East Zone vice chancellors, East Zone universities with us. So a very good morning to you and welcome to AIU business session. So I'll quickly share what all we have done in the last year. I hope I am audible to all.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So just in 2 or 3 seconds, I'll tell about the genesis of AIU. That AIU is now to a 95 years old body, and it came into existence as the Inter-University Board on 23rd of March 1925. And therefore 23rd March happens to be the foundation day of AIU. And from last year, we have started celebrating the AIU Foundation Day by having a AIU Foundation Day lecture. And we have also synchronized the AIU annual meet with the Foundation Day. So now we have fixed it, because many international partners also say that if there's a fixed date for the AIU conferences, especially the main national conference, then they are also able to participate, because many international participants are also there. So now every year, 23rd to 25th March, we'll be having the AIU National Conference. Last year, it could not be held because of the COVID. All the universities were closed, and this virtual mode could not take off immediately, because in March only the lockdown was announced. So last year it happened in August, but now onwards the conferences, whether in virtual or in face-to-face mode, will be held from 23rd to 25th March. And AIU then, as a AIU, it was registered on 29th December, 29th September 1967, and stalwarts like Dr. Sarpalli Radhakrishnan, Dr. Zakir Hussain, Dr. Mudaliar, Dr. Shrimali, Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, they have been the presidents of AIU. So AIU has been headed by such stalwarts in past. This is the present membership of AIU. We have 822 members, which comprises of 49 central universities, 348 state universities, 113 deemed universities, 249 private universities, institutions of national importance are 46, and then we have also 17 international members whom we call as associate members of AIU. These are the functions and activities of AIU. These are general, I mean, sports, culture, equivalence, research, capacity building. So all these types of functions are done by AIU. And we'll tell you what new initiatives which we took in the last year, like AIU website. After I joined in 2019, we have redone the AIU website. Now it is more user friendly and many more options are there. Till last year, we were not having our media presence, but now we have a Twitter account, and within a span of say 1 year, we have something like 5,500 followers. AIU flag has been redesigned. You must be noticing at the back of my, there's a AIU flag. So we have redesigned AIU flag. The national conference, I have told you, every year will be held from 23rd to 25th March. And the first AIU Foundation Day lecture, which was to be held on 23rd of March, but because of COVID, it was delivered. It was delivered by Nobel laureate Shri Kailash Satyarthi ji in August 2020. So that was the first Foundation Day lecture which was delivered. Then what are the initiatives which we have taken during the COVID time? So because when COVID struck and all the universities were closed, once we thought that everything will be coming to a standstill. But at AIU, we try to use the opportunity, the crisis as an opportunity. And we took many initiatives for our member universities. For example, how to teach online was an issue which was confronting all our vice chancellors and the teachers, that how to teach online, because our teachers were not used to teaching online. So we held 3 online workshops for training the faculty on how to teach online. Then placements was an issue which the students were concerned about. So how to do online placements, how the matchmaking of the requirement of the employer and the student is done through using artificial intelligence, how the interviews are held online, and how the appointment letters are received online, and the job is also done online, means work from home sort of thing. So for that also we did a workshop for placement officers so that they know how to enter into the online placement market. Then we did collaborate with National Digital Library for disseminating information. With Sadhguru, we had a session, and that was a very good session, which was liked by the Vice Chancellors, and Honorable HRM also gave a video message in that particular session. Then AIU University News, which is a very popular document of AIU, that was digitized, because till now we were having the print copies only. That was redesigned and digitized. Now you must be seeing the colorful copies of AIU University News, and every month and every year the design and the color is changing. So e-copy of the University News was uploaded on the AIU website. And similarly, there were scholarly articles from eminent authors, which ultimately formed a book called Reimagining Indian Universities. So those articles were also uploaded every week. I mean, every week one new article by an eminent author was released from the AIU website. So that work we were doing. And then online 1-week course on community engagement and university social responsibility. Because university social responsibility is now taken as a very important issue, that all the universities should be committed to the society which is there along with the sort of academics and research. So what is the social responsibility of the university, and how the students and the teachers can engage with the community to fulfill that responsibility. So we held total 1 week online course was held in collaboration with Priya. Then we have also created, I mean, although it is a small thing, but it gives us a very easy way of reaching our vice chancellors. So we have two WhatsApp groups of vice chancellors in which whatever AIU wants to send and whatever new things the universities are doing, so that reaches everybody in a click. So any vice chancellor who is not a member of the WhatsApp group and he or she wants to become a member, please just send a message to me or to Mr. Vijender, and we will be adding you into the WhatsApp group. And then to promote internationalization of higher education, we are establishing an Indian network of international higher education. The Governing Council of AIU has already given the approval in principle, and we are working out the modality so that, I mean, in most of the countries, there is a network of international higher education, but India, I think, is the very, I mean, there are very few countries where it is not there, and for a large country like India, not having such a network is really hampering the internationalization. So we will be having Indian network of international higher education, where the universities, I mean, you must have seen that the NEP also promotes internationalization in a big way. But then in our country, we do have many universities who want to do, who intend to do internationalization, but they don't know how to do it because they don't know which university to contact, whom to collaborate with. So this network will help the universities in the internationalization of higher education. And then we also conducted a webinar on reshaping higher education, and in which the vice chancellors and conversation, I mean, this was a collaborative activity with Sri Sri University, in which the conversation with the Gurudev Shri Sri Ravi Shankar was there. Next. We have also started a self-paced free online course was there in collaboration with Quaspe. But apart from that, we have opened a portal, AIU QuedX portal. And in that portal, the university teachers can join to have online training on how to teach effectively in the online manner. I mean, there are many methods like presentation skills are there, communication skills are there, how to do the, say, make an impactful research project proposal is there. So like that, there are many ways on how to teach teachers to train, how to train teachers to teach online. So that is already there. If you visit AIU website, you will see that QuedX portal, AIU QuedX portal launch was there. Then we also had live demos with TCS ION and Microsoft Teams on how to use these platforms, not only for teaching, but also for assessment and evaluation. And these were the 5 zonal workshops, zonal conferences, which we held last year. These were the themes, and these were the dates, and these were the universities which held those zonal conferences. Of course, all these conferences were held in the face-to-face mode. This year, all the 5 were holding in the virtual mode. Next year, hopefully, we are keeping our fingers crossed. Next year, again, we'll move to face-to-face mode. AIU annual general meet, as I told you already, that it was held on, it was to be held from 23rd to 25th, but ultimately it was held from 17th to 18th August 2020, and the first Foundation Day lecture was delivered by Shri Kailash Satyarthi ji. In the library, we have done some innovations. We have implemented the SOUL software, and then many of the vice chancellors must be getting the AIU daily news clippings, where all the news relating to higher education is shared with our esteemed vice chancellors. If any vice chancellor has not received, you can tell us, we can start sharing it with you. And then whatever are the good articles and editorials, we do make a compendium and again share it with them on a monthly basis. The news clippings are on a daily basis, and this compendium is on a monthly basis. So any of the vice chancellors, if they are not receiving it, please do tell us and we'll start sending it to you. And the bibliography is also being computerized with the QR code access. One thing which we have done very fast is the computerization of AIU. So we are doing it in collaboration with InflipNet Ahmedabad, and every university has to register using login ID and password. In case your university has not registered, please do register with the login ID and password sent to you. If you do not have it, please ask us, we'll give it to you once again. The online payment gateway is implemented. Now all the payments can be done online. We have already started the AIU admission portal, equivalence portal. Equivalence portal means all the equivalence applications are received online, and it is processed online, and the equivalence certificate is also given online. So it is a downloadable equivalence certificate. So this has really expedited our work. Now, right now, AIU VC seniority portal is there. And what you have to do is that fill up your seniority on the AIU portal, because every year we maintain the AIU seniority portal based on which the decision is taken on who will be on the governing council, who will be the president, and who will be the vice president. Then these two, three things, AIU membership portal, youth affairs portal, and collaboration portal are in the pipeline. Under internationalization, we have signed MOU with one like AIU parallel organization in Mexico and US. So we have signed MOU with them. Two universities have already collaborated with Mexican universities under that MOU. If any of you want to collaborate with Mexican universities, you can come back to us. We have also signed an MOU with UUKI. This was done in a virtual mode during COVID time. And this is to promote collaboration between Indian and UK universities. We have done many conferences in collaboration with the World Bank and UNESCO, and a Taiwanese delegation also visited AIU, again for collaboration purposes. These are the research articles and the roundtables which we did during the past year. Like we did roundtable of vice chancellors on exploring the use of eligible enrollment ratio for determining the access to higher education, emergence of STEM education, philanthropy in higher education, and world university rankings. These were also some more workshops which were held on safe campuses, responsible research and innovation, learning online platforms for teaching learning. These were the online courses, developing digital practitioner, AIU QuedX portal, I have already informed you. Then blended learning program is there on fostering social responsibilities, and short-term course on safe campus in collaboration with Martha Farrell Foundation. These are the research publications. You must have seen the India Higher Education Profile, which was sent to all the universities. Every year we will be making this profile, which will give the higher education data state-wise in a pictorial form, so easy to understand. We have published a book on reimagining Indian universities. A COVID response toolkit has been published, in which the best practices by the Indian higher education institutions have been indicated. And there's a book on best practices, and then we have made a toolkit which tells step-by-step procedure on how to reopen the institutions after COVID, because post-COVID this is a big issue, that how to reopen the institutions. So this COVID-19 response toolkit is giving the sort of step-by-step procedure on how to reopen the institution. And then we also conducted a survey on preparedness of Indian higher education institutions for online education. The survey is being compiled, and very soon you will see the report of this survey. These were some other activities. Anveshan was done online this time, and University News, of course, redesigned. These are some of the photographs of the events of AIU Youth Affairs. We held the first AIU International Youth Festival. Then MET University held the National Youth Festival of AIU. South Asian Universities Youth Festival was held by Kurukshetra University, Kurukshetra, in which Dr. Sonal Mansingh also participated and gave a performance. The first AIU National Moot competition was hosted by Rajiv Gandhi National University, Patiala. And we have also framed AIU Youth Affairs Policy, which will be in public domain. And then if anybody wants to contribute, you can. And then an online event, Kuch Artistic Corona, was organized during the Corona period, in which had a very huge response, and 2359 students from about 600 higher education institutions participated in this. These are some of the glimpses of the youth affairs activities. Then in sports, we held the first Khelo India University Games, and it was inaugurated by none other than Honorable Prime Minister of India. And in 17 disciplines it was held, and it was a very, very mega event held at Keet University, Orissa. Then we are also participating in the World University Sports Federation has introduced, and next Khelo India University Games are scheduled in 2022, because this year, I mean 2020, we could not hold the zonal competitions because of Corona. So this year we will be holding the zonal competitions, and based on that, the winners of the zonal will go to the national sports competition, which will be Khelo India University Games in 2022. These are some of the events where the President of India also invited our players to felicitate them. Kiran Rijiju is there. So these were the glimpses of this. Equivalence of foreign degrees, I have already told. Equivalence is now fully automated with features of downloadable equivalence certificate. The rules and policies, now we are changing from duration approach to the credit approach. Now, if the credits are okay, I mean, if they're equal to the Indian credits, we can give the accreditation, equivalence of foreign degree with the Indian degree. And then for equivalence of PG, DBM to MBA, earlier we used to see only NBA, but now 3 international accreditations, that is AACSB, AMBA, and ICWIS are also considered at par with NBA. And the mechanism is being worked out for equating fellow program with a PhD program. So these were some of the glimpses of the AIU activities during the past year, and you must have seen that we have tried to use Corona as an opportunity rather than a crisis. So these were the activities undertaken by us during the Corona time. So if any suggestion is there, if anybody wants to share something, or if they want us to share something with the government, suggestions are welcome.
Madam Dr. Pankaj Mittal
Sir.
can very well share about renovation work is going on to give you a big facelift for our AIU.
Yes.
That is a big project is going on that you can
Yes.
share with our fellow members.
So AIU building is now very old. So what we are also doing is that we are trying to renovate the AIU building so that it becomes a comfortable space for all. And a lot of conference facilities will be added, because many universities who are in the far-flung areas, if they want to hold conferences or meetings, mostly finance committee meetings are there, in which MHRD and UGC nominees are there, especially for the central universities. So all those facilities are being created so that our member universities can hold their meetings in AIU, they can hold their conferences in AIU, and the guest house is being renovated so that the comfortable stay of the vice chancellors would be there. So apart from, I mean, this is apart from the comfortable space we will be creating for our own staff members. So these are the facilities which will be available to the vice chancellors as and when the AIU renovation is done, and I suppose it will be starting within a week or 10 days. Any observation?
With your permission, if I could just make a point here, please.
Yes.
Well, I'm Dr. Grewal, Jen Grewal, Vice Chancellor, Sikkim Manipal University. Compliments and appreciation on the excellent body of work and the forward initiatives that you are taking, which will impact higher education, in fact, education across the board in very meaningful manner. Our request is that if we could have these insights shared with us from time to time, because you would appreciate that the Northeast region requires a mentorship relationship with the other reputed universities, which would contribute meaningfully in developing the region in terms of educational literacy and other avenues, as also bring mainstream the students of the Northeast towards the country in alignment with the NEP 2020 as envisaged by the Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you. We are also trying to hold a conference of vice chancellors of Northeastern universities. So a special conference for special people, because they have a different type of issues which are associated with that. So that also we will be holding for the Northeastern.
Very kind of you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I understand that the Honorable Minister is here and he has to leave. So if there are any other observations, we will pick up after the address of the. So may I request the host to start with the valedictory session?
I would like to take this opportunity to make an appeal to all the fellow vice chancellors. As you have witnessed, a lot of good works are going on, especially after Dr. Pankaj Mittal has assumed charge as Secretary General, and our dynamic President, Vice Chancellor Tej Pratap, even during COVID-19, no regular program has been affected as far as AIU is concerned. And as mentioned by my president yesterday, he has been affected by COVID, but his spirit and dynamism didn't stop his activities, and he's extending a lot of advices, and he has been attending meeting as well. See, after the entry of Dr. Pankaj Mittal, we see a very big change. Basically, I can say she has done a total revamping of the functioning, even the administration as well. Luckily, she came from University Grants Commission. Out of her close association with the executives and other vice chancellors, she had, for the last many decades, she brought all these inputs from our apex body. It is none other than UGC as well. Now we are growing, we are coming, we are planning. Hopefully, now slowly after getting the vaccination and the remedy, our rest of the programs will be resumed, will be of physical, then virtual as well. At this juncture, I would like to share one important message with our fellow Vice Chancellor. You can take it as an appeal also. The basic resource or revenue for the AIU is member subscription from the universities. Basically, we get only a minimum grant from government, the Ministry of Education. And almost 98% of the revenue it comes from the member university. Actually, it is a subscription, every year subscription as well. As shown in the slide, we have almost around 822 member universities. Unfortunately, almost more than 38% of the universities not subscribing regularly. I'm sorry, I don't want to blame anyone, or I don't want to take it as an issue among the vice chancellors. For your kind information, there are universities, the arrear of subscription alone comes about several lakhs. But the AIU is very, very generous. They have not stopped extending all the services. They are continuing the services. And as Vice Chancellors, you know pretty well, because we are, as Vice Chancellor, we are sitting in the Finance Committee of the university. We are sitting in the syndicate. Unless we ensure the grant or revenue from many sources, we cannot run the university, single university. AIU is taking care of almost 835 universities and conducting programs very regularly as well on all aspects of research, sports, youth affairs, publications, etc., including conducting conferences as well. Unless we have the fund to run the programs, it is very, very difficult to go for new and additional programs as well in future. So it is an appeal to all the fellow vice chancellors. See that the regular subscriptions are coming from the universities without any break. If at all anything in the arrear in a large amount of lakhs, that also can be, hopefully, I have a plan of taking to the coming General Council meeting and requesting the members to think about how we can reorganize the arrear and all, how we can bring down to the possible way of making payment as well. This is my appeal, and I would like, because it is a session for business session, and I must share something about finance as well. It is for the information of honorable members, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for raising it. This is really becoming a concern for all of us. Thanks for raising it, sir.
I have a comment, please. Actually, we had given the membership. I don't know whether we are updated or not, but we will do it. Maybe last year we haven't sent. Anyway, we will do that. Not in many of the initiatives that AIU has taken, I'm really very interested, especially on this effective online teaching, because in Northeast, and we have done it, but even then, I think we should not be satisfied. We should do more. So that's very nice. We will be in connection. And second thing, in case you want to hold any Northeastern pieces, any conference, I think Cotton University will be happy to do that. So just to give us a chance sometime. Within next week. Of course, better is the offline is better. So we'll see. You just keep it in mind for everybody. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Gaurav Majumdar, Nodal Officer, AIU East Zone Vice Chancellor's Conference, the host institute, JIS University. We are proud to present Sir Taranjit Singh, our Honorable Chancellor, sir, who is present here, and it is our privilege to welcome the guest of honor for this session, Sri Purnendu Basu, Minister in charge, Department of Technical Education, Training and Skill Development, Government of West Bengal. Sir, we would like to hear some words from you at this AIU East Zone Vice Chancellor's Meet 2021, hosted by JIS University. We'd like to request you to address the session, sir. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. I am indeed delighted to be present here in virtual mode to deliver the valedictory address on the East Zone Vice Chancellor's Meet 2020-21, organized by Association of Indian University. I hope the theme of the meet, equity and higher education, including promotion of Indian language, art and culture, has enriched all participants. They will certainly find out the ways for development of the people of socio-economically disadvantaged groups. I hope that your activities will attract all teachers and students, and they will be benefited to a large extent. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all a very happy and prosperous New Year. Thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. Hello. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. We'll continue with the session as planned previously. I handed the session over to Dr. Avik Acharya for subsequent proceedings. Thank you so much.
So we now enter in the valedictory session of this 95th East Zone Vice Chancellor's Meet 2021 of Association of Indian Universities. Now it is the presentation of reports by Mr. Ranudip Bhattacharya.
Thank you, Avik sir. So I'll be presenting the report of the session that we have had till now. The East Zone Vice Chancellors Meet 2020-21 of the Association of Indian Universities was hosted by JIS University, Kolkata, West Bengal on the 18th and 19th of January 2021 through the online mode. The inaugural session was graced by Mr. Shekhar Datto, the former governor of Chhattisgarh and a thinker and reformer in his own right, as the chief guest. The inaugural address was delivered by Professor Dr. Indranil Sengupta, the Vice Chancellor of JIS University, the host institution. Dr. Pankaj Mittal, the Secretary General of Association of Indian Universities, delivered the welcome address. And finally, Dr. Tej Pratap, the President of Association of Indian Universities, delivered the presidential address. Apart from the aforementioned dignitaries, various VCs from an eclectic institutions saw a resounding response from the faculty members and other interested parties and stakeholders. Dr. Ramayas Devi Pani, Mr. Vijender Kumar, Mr. Shivam Dikshit, and Mr. Satyapal Sharma were the coordinating team from the AIU, while Mr. Gaurav Majumdar and team was the nodal officer from the host institute. The theme of the meet was equity and access in higher education, including promotion of Indian languages, art, and culture. Under this theme, the following technical sessions were planned. Interface with officers from apex bodies, technical session 1, which was based on the sub-theme of promoting equity and inclusion in higher education, Challenges and Solution, and technical session 2, which was on adult education, a lifelong learning. These sessions had taken place on the day before, that is on the 18th of January. The meet started off in earnest with welcome address by Professor Indranil Sengupta, the Vice Chancellor of JS University, who extended a warm and hearty welcome to all the dignitaries present for having taken time out of their busy schedules for this meet. He lauded the choice of topics, saying that culture was an important aspect in the general progress of any civilization, and it is particularly relevant in terms of education. Dr. Pankaj Mittal extended a warm welcome to all the dignitaries for gracing this meet. She said that this is one attempt in the AIU's constant endeavor towards promotion and excellence of academic pursuits in India. In particular, she opined that this meet shall stress on the various features of the recently formed national education policy with special thrust of implementation of the same, and she expressed hope that specific inputs would be received from the various dignitaries present for the said implementation, and the same would be compiled and relayed to the competent authorities for appropriate action. Mr. Shekhar Dutt spoke of the importance of school education relative to higher education. He held the opinion that students have successfully completed school education before they come to college or university for higher education, and thus he was of the opinion that education should be made interesting from the school level itself, so that students feel attracted towards education and parents feel that the cost that they bear upon the children's education is justified and worth it. He stressed on the need for each and every student to undergo a minimum of 2 to 3 years of graduate education for a complete and holistic all-round development for the individual throughout life. Dr. Tej Pratap delivered the presidential address, and he stressed on the importance of meaningful communication among all stakeholders for a proper and appropriate higher education system in the country. He took a positive outlook of the current situation, claiming that the advent of online education has made distance and geography dispensable factors in the dissemination of education, and this indeed provides a great opportunity for all to come together from the comfort of the home institutions. He interpreted the theme of the meet in the light of the recently formulated national education policy and said that the stress should be on the recently formulated NEP and the meaningful implementation of the same. With reference to the first interface with officers from apex bodies, this was the first interactive session in this meet, and the session was chaired by Professor Dr. G. Thiruvasagam, Vice President, AIU and VC AMET University, Chennai. And the speakers were Professor Rajendra B. Kagde, Advisor of AICT, and Dr. M.S. Shyamashundar, Advisor of NAC. The key recommendations from this session were: the higher officials of the apex bodies must be more accessible to the VCs or Vice Chancellors of universities, and for such access, programs such as these should be organized more frequently. Nomenclature by the NAC should be much more flexible and open. Universities and higher education institutions should be given a freer hand to devise names that are suited to their course or are relevant to regional requirements. Funds should be mobilized in a more equitable manner, and adequate popularity should be provided to all schemes and scholarships to both the teachers and the students so that the same may be adequately utilized. Norms prevalent currently should be correctly fine-tuned and modified to make them relevant for the pandemic situation. A one-size-fits-all approach will not work. Higher education institutes should be given full freedom and autonomy to design and offer courses, keeping in mind the demand of such courses and the infrastructure available to the institutions. AICT has created a host of relevant programs and schemes for all stakeholders involved appropriately, and the optimal utilization of the same must be made by all interested parties. Then we had the first technical session, which was on the sub-theme of promoting equity and inclusion in higher education, challenges and solutions thereof. The first technical session took place right after the lunch break, and the same was chaired by Professor Nageshwar Rao, Vice Chancellor of IGNOU, and the speakers were Professor Shashikala Vanjari, Vice Chancellor, SNDT Women's University, Mumbai, Professor Sanjeev Kumar Sharma, Vice Chancellor, Mahatma Gandhi Central University, Motihari, Bihar, and Professor Ranjan Velukar, VC Oro University, Gujarat. The key takeaways from these sessions are: higher education is a potent tool for empowerment, particularly women empowerment, and the same should be optimally used thus. As per the provisions of the National Education Policy, quality education should not be confined in the classrooms only. It has to be spread out in the fields of practical applications and among the stakeholders that are not necessarily students, for instance, marginalized and grassroots level workers. The stark gender disparity in education should be addressed. It is paradoxical that while girls outnumber boys in higher education as a whole, the gender ratio is highly skewed when it comes to scientific and technical education, wherein boys outnumber girls by a huge margin. Such a skewed ratio will not bode good for the future of the country. Even in terms of school dropout, there is immense gender disparity. Education is a huge equalizer and the same should be used equitably. In terms of language, regional language should never be accorded a status less than that of English or of any foreign language, because fluency in English is still wanting in many students. In view of the same, notices and circulars should always be made available in regional languages wherever practicable by the universities. Then we had the technical session 3, adult education and lifelong learning. The second technical session followed the first, and it was chaired by Professor Sushma Yadav, Vice Chancellor, BP SMV, Sonipat. And the speakers were Professor O.R.S. Rao, Vice Chancellor, ICFA University, Jharkhand, Professor Sujata Sahi, Vice Chancellor, IILM University, Gurugram, and Professor Shashikala Vanjari, Vice Chancellor, SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. The key takeaways from this session were: adult education is as important as child education, and a well-educated adult working force would make a much more meaningful contribution to the national economy and the social fabric of the country. It is still unacceptable that a sizable portion of the Indian population still has to depend on left thumb impression for official work and others for reading important as well as personal documents. Collective wisdom is an important feature of the Indian ethos. Adult education should inculcate this feature within itself to be more acceptable to adults in themselves, who are the target education of this feature. Since students in adult education are higher in age, the approach to such education should be tweaked to factor into consideration the vagaries of age and whims. It has to be borne in mind that no person willingly remains illiterate or deprived from the blessings of education. They are victims of circumstances or situation. The educational system should be such that it becomes interesting and inspiring for the adults, that they are attracted to education. Endeavor should be made to combine education and profession as far as practicable, so that education still remains a lucrative option. Then we had the third technical session, which took place today morning, and it was based on the sub-theme of promotion of Indian languages, arts and culture. The session was chaired by Sri Dinesh K. Patnaik, DG, ICCR. The keynote speaker was Sri Atul Kothari, National Secretary, Shiksha Shankriti Utthayan Nyas. The first speaker was Professor T.V. Kattimani, VC, Central Tribal University, Andhra Pradesh. The next speaker was Professor Annapurna Nautiyal, VC, HNGBU, Srinagar. And thereafter, the final speaker was Professor Joy Shen, Professor, Department of Architecture and Regional Planning, IIT Kharagpur. The main takeaways from this session were: there should be a thrust on increasing the average intelligence or grade of the students. If the average is good, the overall extremes would improve as well. Stress on local language would be a first decisive step in this direction. The importance of local language in national development is well documented and accepted. Students should learn foreign languages, since languages open manifold opportunities for them, career opportunities for them, but the first thrust should always be on local language. The Indian education should be devised in such a manner that we should aim towards presentation, we should aim towards preemption of problems, or in case a problem should arise, we should be well equipped to deal with it in a timely and efficient manner. As per the provisions of national education policy, thrust should be on local intelligence first. Schools and higher education institutions should have mandatory cultural portions in the syllabi, since cultural education is an indispensable part of a holistic education. Such a step would also help boost the self-esteem and self-confidence of the students. Finally, the curriculum should be overhauled with reference to culture and the Indian ethos. For such ends, even teachers should be sensitized to make them efficient and capable for the purpose of imparting such training. Technology should be utilized as well for the promotion of arts and culture. This is the report that has been created till now. The other reports are being furnished and will be presented in due course of time. Thank you. Now off to Avik, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bhattacharya. Now, it's time for feedback from any two participants. So I would like to request Professor S.P. Singh, Vice Chancellor, Royal Global University, for his feedback. Sir, please.
Thank you so much for giving me a chance to give the feedback. All right. In all the sessions, I was present and I tried my level best to learn as much as I can learn from these very important sessions. And I'm always very grateful to AIU for bringing vice chancellors on a platform with so many I would say, stalwarts in their own domain, which actually have come and have given their deliberations. All the chairpersons were actually have mesmerized us, the chief guest, and everything was so well organized. So I may put on record that this was one of the most important East Zone conference that to begin with for the AIU this year. And I congratulate the President Tej Pratap ji, Madam Pankaj Mittal, Vice President through Sangam Saab, and all other associated and Vice Chancellor of JIS University and the host. You actually have done almost a flawless conference for 1.5 days. And I think I have personally learned a lot. I contributed in the best possible way from my side. And I really congratulate the whole team involved here. In my opinion, whatever I have learned in last 7 years of Vice Chancellorship, if more than half is concerned, the credit goes to AIU. The credit, because I'm summarizing it, the conferences, I attended almost all the conferences, the national level and the zonal level. And whenever we used to meet personally, it was definitely a better, aura and better output. But then this digital one is equally good. And there's a lot of learning, I think for all the vice chancellors. And I congratulate each and every member of AIU, including Rama Devi and everyone here and all JIS members. It was really a wonderful East Zone Vice Chancellors meet. And I'm looking forward, though I have a competition with Cotton University now, I'm also ready to host Northeast Vice Chancellors Conference here. So that I have applied for the East Zone last time. So I think I'm applying from last 2-3 times. So I may be also considered if at all there's a possibility. And we are very, very open and open to welcome. I welcome each and every Vice Chancellor to Northeast. I don't know about inclusion. I don't know. It's my 11th year or 12th year in Northeast. I think we already have been included, and this digital platform has given us so much of opportunity. We have organized 400 plus webinars. Everything was online teaching. I think the opportunity time during the pandemic has actually made us visible throughout the country where we were not visible earlier. So thanks to pandemic, thanks to Corona, and thanks to AIU. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your nice words. May we have GN Something, Vice Chancellor, Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies, for his feedback, sir, please. Professor Something.
नहीं आ रहा नहीं तो फिर उनके एंड से नहीं हुआ अच्छा उनके एंड से हो और क्या है इंटरनेट कनेक्शन इज अनस्टेबल हमारा शायद मेरा हो जाएगा जब भी है जब मैं बोलने का मेरा बोलने का तो उस समय गड़बड़ हो जाता है
ठीक है you are all right
sir. It's okay sir. Please carry on.
You are audible, sir.
You can speak.
Professor Something, you are audible, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay, yes. I did not, because there was an interruption, disturbance. So I did not hear that I was asked to speak. I'm sorry. Great. The AIU's East Zone universities, the meet, it has been wonderful. And as we have been doing every day, every year at the zonal level, as well as at the central level, and I have been participating for the last more than 18, 19 years, one of the most oldest person to participate. And so this time, the President Professor Tej Pratap ji and Vice President and the General Secretary Madam Pankaj Mittal, you all have and your associates of the wonderful the members of AIU and the host university, JIS University, all of you have collectively worked very hard and made this meet very successful. Whether or not any meet becomes successful is how we can, participate in the discussion and generate some ideas and then bring up some ideas that can contribute to our education system and to the nation. And I think in this course of discussion, there has been lots of good ideas and suggestions in the light of the new education policy. I think this is the new education policy itself is a wonderful document, not only document, now it is to be implemented, as we all know very well. And this has incorporated almost all aspects of developmental components. So therefore, I think this will bring a big change in India. So now it is we, the educators and the academic institution, the school teachers and school system and higher education systems, it is our duty to make it more successful. The government has a vision, and they have put before us the vision, and also we have all participated in creating the whole kind of the document at the national level. But now when it comes to the implementation, a large part of the service is to be provided by the education, the institutions, and the people who are associated with that. So therefore, as we discussed, in the last 2 days, good suggestions have come up, and then particularly in the highlight of the technical session is. And also, I really appreciate that the AIU has brought this, the topic and the matter to be discussed in the East Zone University meet, as well as you are going to share other, the discuss on other topics associated with the NEP in other zonal universities, and also at the central, which is very good because it covers the NEP covers a huge area. So the highlight of this, East Zone meet is, I think, the promotion of Indian language and art and culture. So many of our colleagues have been discussing about the promotion of language and things like that. And it is not that easy. We should be prepared for that. We won't be able to teach modern subjects in our regional language, let alone with the regional language, but even in Hindi and even in Sanskrit. First, we need to create the vocabularies, right? I have been participating many of our Sanskrit scholars meetings and conferences. Of course, the Sanskrit language is a very, efficient language, very, highly developed language. But if this language cannot communicate the modern subjects, can we write an article on physics or whatever, neurology or any kind of chemistry or something like that, or high level article in Sanskrit at the moment? We cannot do that because the language has the capability, but we don't have a sufficient vocabulary. So therefore, at the national level, we must put some effort to bring and develop vocabularies. Some of my colleagues have been saying that in the next 2-3 years, we will be able to teach the modern subjects in regional language. But I think this is a little bit, too busy and too kind of it would be too kind of ambitious to do that. So we need to have a systematic mechanism to develop the vocabularies, not only in the regional language, but also in Hindi and Sanskrit, so that these subjects can be communicated. And in terms of the richness of Indian culture is concerned, certainly Indian culture is, if not the richest, but one of the richest, culture in the world. And also the beauty and the richness of Indian culture is that it addresses the inner world, which is very much, lacking in the modern kind of disciplines and modern education system and modern disciplines in the scientific world. And now, when they look back, when the scientists are, they take interest in ancient Indian kind of legacy, particularly if I mention the legacy of Nalanda, ancient Nalanda University, they are very much interested in understanding and knowing the system of mind, the philosophy of mind, and the details of the detailed account of mind and mental, factors, and how they can work with them. And that is why now many of the neuroscientists and the top psychologists and clinical scientists and cognitive scientists are working with the Buddhist scholars and Buddhist practitioners in order to look into the inner world. And this is one of the greatest contribution that Indian civilization is making now for the modern world at a very high level. World's top scientists are working on this. And then also the quantum physics is a very new kind of thing in modern science. But if you look into the the historical aspect of the such a thought, then in India, more than 2,000 years back, the concept of quantum mechanism was already developed. So with such a rich culture and philosophy and the disciplines, India can and had been making contribution at the world level. And many used to come to India to study at Nalanda, Takshashila, Vikramashila, and the galaxies of scholars produced huge literature, and these literatures are still relevant, and these are studied in Harvard, in Cambridge, in Stanford, and in Emory, and many places. So these are the greatness of India that can be projected at a very at the global level. So the Indian people and Indian youngsters should be informed about these things, so that they can get a pride of their nation and pride of their the civilization. So as I said earlier, that many suggestions have come, and this has been very productive. So I really congratulate the AIU, and then Professor Pankaj Mittalji, our General Secretary, has given reported her the 1 year's developments, and just many great works are have been done, and really I appreciate, and particularly some of those online teaching and courses that you have provided, and also making many of the informations digitized and provide them to the relevant universities. This is a great thing that I really appreciate, the works that you have done, the AIU members, all of you have done. So with these words, I end up my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Something, for your words. I'm sure they would help us much in our personal enrichment. Now, for the next, we have an address by the Secretary General of Association of Indian Universities, Dr. Pankaj Mittal. Madam, the floor to you.
Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary. Dr. Tej Pratap, Honorable President of AIU, Dr. Thiruvasagam, Honorable Vice President of AIU, Dr. Sen Gupta, Honorable Vice Chancellor of JIS University, who is hosting the East Zone Conference, all the chairpersons and speakers of various sessions, all the esteemed Vice Chancellors who have been attending this conference, and some like Professor S.P. Singh have been attending each and every session of the conference, thanks to him. The other dignitaries who are there, all my AIU colleagues, a very warm welcome to the valedictory session of the two-day East Zone Conference of AIU. First of all, I would like to express my thanks to the host university, JIS University, Dr. Sen Gupta, and his entire team, especially the nodal officer, Dr. Gautam, for organizing this program in a very, very effective manner. All the sessions were very nicely held, and the technical support was meticulous. So thanks to you for hosting the workshop, and that too hosting it in a very, very nice manner. Thank you very much. I also thank my colleagues at AIU, especially Mr. Satyapal and Mr. Vijendra Kumar, who have been working very hard on this. And then Dr. Ramadevi Pani, who has been the academic coordinator of the conference, and Shivam Dikshit, who is the technical coordinator of the workshop. So thanks to all my colleagues. And I'm also thankful to the Vice President for raising the very, very important issue of funding of AIU. I mean, the member subscription, which is pending for a long, long time. I had forgotten to mention in my address, but then he addressed this, that yes, the subscription is pending from many universities. And as you all know, that the AIU is running on the subscriptions only. So if any Vice Chancellor has not paid the subscription, please do it at the earliest. Otherwise, it will be difficult for us to sustain also. Now, coming to this conference, as I told you in the beginning also, that like 2020, the policy came. So 2020 was a year when the policy was launched, and also that year was spent on understanding the policy, for creating the awareness about the policy. But the year 2021 will be the year for implementing the policy, for bringing out the implementation strategy for the policy. So we have been working in collaboration with Jindal Global University to formulate for each and every recommendation of the policy that what will be the action point on part of various stakeholders. Means for every recommendation, what the central government has to do, what the state government has to do, what the professional bodies have to do, what the universities have to do, and what the colleges have to do. So along with the timelines, and what will be the performance indicator also, like if it is in how to measure the performance, whether that particular recommendation has been fully implemented or not. So we are working on that, and we are producing a document to that effect. So what we are presently doing is that all the 5 zonal conferences, which are basically on different themes of national policy and education, because AIU is committed to bringing out a good implementation strategy document which will be presented to the government of India. But we wanted a total sort of discussion with all the vice chancellors, so that it is a well-researched policy and well-discussed policy. So we are bringing each zonal conference one theme of the policy, and whatever we had proposed as the action points, that is also sent to all the vice chancellor as the concept paper for the vice chancellor. Now, the 2 days we had very good deliberations. We have got many additional such suggestions from the esteemed vice chancellors. Our speakers were very good, our chairpersons were very good. So based on that, we will revise this portion of the document for the East Zone conference. Similarly, for every conference will be, whatever subject is discussed there, those portions will be revising based on the discussions in the conference. And ultimately, by the time we come to the national conference, we will be having a ready document with us, which we will present to the government also. Whoever is the chief guest for the national conference, we are trying for the Honorable Prime Minister also, but we are sure that at least Honorable Minister for Education would be there. So we'll be giving a copy of the implementation strategy prepared by the AIU in collaboration with JJU on the, which is well discussed with all the vice chancellors. It will be a democratic document in which we have been discussing this document with all the vice chancellors. So we are working into that effect, and I hope that we'll be producing a very good document, and that will be a very big value addition for AIU, and it will be a very, very useful document for the government. So let us hope for the best, and all the best to everybody. And thanks to the host university, all the participating vice chancellors, and the teams who have been working on making this conference successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mittal. Again, I would also like to thank everyone on behalf of the host institution, because without your active cooperation, this meet would not have been the huge success that it is now. And I'm also sure that the recommendations received here would go a long way in actually helping the Indian academic scenario. Now, I would like to call upon Dr. Tej Pratap, President AIU, for his presidential address. Sir, the floor to you.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
There's always a problem from my place to get connected.
We always keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's right. So my Secretary General has expressed permission that when I stop, she will take over. And that's her mind. Then she reads my mind from a distance what I was about to speak. The host, Vice Chancellor, Indranil Sen Gupta ji, my Vice President, Thiru Vasagan ji, Madam Secretary General Pankaj Mittal, and all of you honorable vice chancellors who are hooked to this valedictory session and who attended the meeting for the last 2 days. Let me start by first thanking the host vice chancellor, and through him, I put on record our appreciation of the efforts and contribution made by the university, JIS University, giving your time and resources, everything to host this thing. In fact, one has to see it is our own function. We are a family, and somebody has to host it. So in a family, not everybody agrees. Somebody has to say, okay, I will do it. Thank you very much, Indranil ji, for that. I miss coming to Calcutta and meeting you personally. That would have been great, but then It's not only that, I have not personally met my own vice president. We keep talking that we will meet, but we are still not able. Let's look forward that all of us will meet at the end of the day. In the final meeting, I'm hoping we will try to do that offline. Up to we can actually buy vaccines and then say all the VCs will be vaccinated there itself. Maybe that's possible. This Eastern Zone meeting, you had been given a theme for discussion for 2 days. It is that we have actually categorized or say made groups of the wise people. The wise people of Northeast, they were given this whole theme of equity, access, promotion of Indian languages, art and culture. Looking at the topics and national education policy, now we are again focused. Focus has come because of national education policy. Otherwise, we used to talk it for the sake of talking, okay, academic debate. Now there is a reason. We have a document, we have a mission of the country, and we are about to implement it. To that extent, I would re-quote Pankaj Mittal. She has very smartly said, after all, we have a hidden agenda in the headquarters to give you the assignments. It's like assignments given to students. So we divided all the vice chancellors into 5 groups, given them the assignment of scratching their heads on these topics, bringing outside experts, and see that what are the nitty-gritties, the concerns and prospects in equity, in access. If whatever is written in education policy, many times, if you have read that, I have also read that, there's a big talk. And sometimes that is palatable, that's practical. Many times the big talks are big talks. Then when it comes to you and me, the vice chancellors who have implemented, then we find, oh, yeah, talking big is fine, but it finds a problem here and there. Equity in access, when we talk about what we understand, it may not be entirely the university which can do anything. It may be, it starts from the government, so where the institutions are located, where other things are there. So I'm happy that you have discussed all issues in the way they should be discussed, the practicalities of these. I am reminded of the inputs. Thank you very much, Samtanji. You are online and you are present. The comments you made right now are very appreciable indeed, that you said, okay, when we talk about things like languages, culture, art, we have practical problems when we talk about that. So you very nicely deliberated. I like your comments on languages, for example. It's good to talk about integrating or imparting education in local languages, but is it practical? On the one hand, we are saying internationalization of Indian education. On the other, if there has to be a balance, like your comment on practicality of that. We simply have no books, no teachers on teaching on that. So implementing such things will take a long time. While we keep these things in the cupboard for future, but then we must not negate anything, whatever is written in national education policy. My advice to all of you colleagues would be, let's not criticize the NEP components in between. What we can say is that this particular thing, let's keep it on the board for posterity. What we need to take first, we will take first. It's like restructuring ourselves, restructuring academic programs, give ourselves 5 years to implement that. Many of these things will come down the road, maybe after 10 years, after 230. Promoting languages in science, that, for example, if it was in my own subject area, agriculture, another 10, 15 years, if that happens. But then very particularly in the system, we see, well, certificate course can be done in that, not a PhD, not something else. It looks good to quote that, well, if Germans can teach in German, then why can't we? Fine. But for us to pick up even Bengali for that thing, another 15 to 20 years we would need, only then we can do that. So these are practical issues. We will prioritize our things. Let's agree, we will listen to everything. We will see the importance of everything. After that, the biggest challenge to all of us vice chancellors, collectively and individually, both, is to prioritize things. If you had the time to go through national education policy, I've done that. There is too much. It's a basket full of opportunities, choices, do's and don'ts, and must be done things, and kind of options that we have. In such a scenario, the biggest challenge for every vice chancellor, every university, and AIU as an institution, for example, would be actually now, Mithalji, that probably that you can pick up the word. How do we prioritize these things? Take the basket, unload it on your table, and then put things in series 1, 2, 3, 4. There will always be 101 things to do in 20 years, up to 2040. But the challenge, actually, the smartest university will be one where it is very smart vice chancellor and the team who actually prioritizes things that disturbs them the least. The most foolish guy would be who picks up the most difficult things first and then leaves the shorter things later. So probably this is something my take-home message to all my colleagues would be, while we'll debate everything, we think these are necessary. We do not deny it's everything. But for us, very smartly, my list of things for Pantnagar, definitely many things would be different from somebody who is my neighbor, even in agriculture university. Similarly, Sikkim, Manipal University. It's a list of priorities, do's and don'ts. There are a few must things for all of us. But then there are a lot of choices where we can make priorities. That also, please keep in mind. And we will implement national education policy. We will grow. For that implementation and growth, we also have to be comfortable. It needs the resources. It needs also at national level guidance, and those things then are linked. If you get money, you will implement it. So put that in the list. Priority is given, okay, from where to get everything. There are a few things we don't need money, but there are a lot of things in national education policy that will need money, whether it is building expertise, infrastructure, for everything. Now, so all of us are actually also tagged in a lot of these constraints. And these are very practical things. We as vice chancellors, when we meet together, then I like this whole word interactive session. That is a session when we meet in full. I would like to keep it where there would not be an agenda. There would be these concerns we share. अरे भाई ये करना था तो कैसे हो सकता है? So if there is somebody else, or say then we develop a common understanding to pass on to the government. This is the time, as Dr. Mithal said, we are in implementation mode in 2021. It's not exactly implementing, the preparing to write these priorities and other things. This is the time to raise things. Tomorrow we will be questioned, well, that time you didn't say anything. Now you are saying. So we have to keep that also in mind. And meetings like these are very important events, creating inputs to the implementation of NEP. This year, devoted to national education policy. Thank you very much, all colleagues of Eastern Zone and Northeastern region, for giving your inputs. These inputs now from there will flow to AIU headquarters, and as Dr. Mithal said already, there would be a good churning process before the real khichdi is put in the final show in the annual event. When all of you come together, let's hope that we meet together. There we will have another chance to rechurn the whole thing. Once again, I thank you all for participating, sparing your time and giving your input. And once again, thanks the host institution and Indranaji for your initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, for your words. I'm sure your sentiments are shared by everyone present. Now, I'd like to yield the floor to Dr. S. Ramadevi Pani, the editor of AIU newsletter, for the vote of thanks. Madam, off to you now.
Thank you, Dr. Randeep. Good afternoon, everybody. Chief guest of this valedictory session, Shri Purnendu Basu, Honorable Minister in Charge, Department of Technical Education, Training and Skill Development, Government of West Bengal. Respected President, Association of Indian Universities, Professor Tej Pratap, honored Vice President of AIU, Professor Tiruvasagam, most acclaimed Secretary General of AIU, Dr. Pankaj Mittal, esteemed Vice Chancellor of JS University, Professor Indranil Sengupta, honored Vice Chancellors of different universities of East Zone, distinguished guests, delegates and invitees, ladies and gentlemen. Traditionally, the universities were viewed as institutions which train the students for professions. The universities of today are expected to prepare students for a host of occupations and semi-professions. Ideally speaking, the purpose of education is to teach students how to live life by developing the mind and equipping them to deal with reality, to prepare them for full-fledged life, self-fulfillment, and sustainable future. The recently launched National Education Policy is geared towards accomplishing these purposes of higher education. The deliberations of this 95th East Zone Vice Chancellors Meet of AIU on the topic Implementation Strategies of National Education Policy 2021-2020 with special reference to equity and access in higher education, including promotion of Indian language, art and culture, is an effort towards facilitating the implementation process of the policy. The meet was a great success. And as we can see from the report and the feedback, many tangible recommendations have emerged out of the meet. And it is indeed an opportunity and privilege for me to conclude this meet of the East Zone Vice Chancellors by extending a vote of thanks on behalf of Association of Indian Universities, JS University, and on my own behalf. We are indeed very grateful to you, Sir, Honorable Minister in charge, Department of Technical Education, Training and Skill Development, Government of West Bengal, Shri Purnendu Basu, for gracing the valedictory function and blessing us with a message. We had the privilege of having Honorable Shri Sekhar Dutt Ji, a senior IAS officer and former governor of Chhattisgarh, to inaugurate this meet. We convey our immense gratitude to him for sparing his informative address and very thought-provoking and eye-opening anecdotes on a wide range of issues that emerged during the whole day deliberations. I assure you, sir, that Association of Indian Universities, constituted of so many vice chancellors, will work collectively to achieve the targets of preparing our universities to meet the needs of higher education vis-a-vis the nation. Professor Tej Pratap, Honorable Vice President AIU, is the guiding light for organizing this meet, not only this meet, for all the activities of AIU. In fact, the theme for this meet was suggested by him only. Sir, we are thankful to you for your continuous guidance and incessant support for organizing this meet. I may also mention that your presidential address had set the tone for the meet, and resultantly we have many recommendations. I thank you, sir, once again. The session on interface with apex bodies was very ably chaired by Professor Tiruvasagam, Vice President AIU. His thought-provoking opening remarks in this session stirred the discussion, which resulted into many vital recommendations. Sir, we are thankful to you not only for chairing this session, but being with us throughout these 2 days and providing significant ideas time to time. I place on record our indebtedness to Honorable Chancellor of JS University, Sardar Taranjit Singh Ji, for hosting this meet and providing us an opportunity to reach out to East Zone Vice Chancellors through this university. We are thankful to you, sir. Vibrant and dynamic Madam Pankaj Mittal is a continuous source of inspiration for all of us at AIU. It is due to her able leadership that we are successfully accomplishing the objectives of the meet. I'm thankful to you, madam, on behalf of whole AIU fraternity for your efforts, not only making this meet a success, but making efforts to realize the objectives of AIU, which have been laid down since 1925. I'm thankful to you, madam. Welcome speech of Professor Indranil Sengupta was truly welcoming. I'm thankful to you, sir, for not only your address, but also for the marvelous arrangements for this virtual meet. Except for the Kolkata special food, we did not miss anything in this meet. Thank you once again, sir. The significance of the meet is to have scholars with insight, information, and knack of chairing the sessions. I must say that all the sessions were excellently chaired. I'm thankful to Professor Dinesh Patnaik for chairing this session and for excellently concluding this session and providing good remarks and paving the pathway for future. I'm thankful to you, sir. I'm also thankful to Professor Nageshwar Rao, Vice Chancellor IGNOU, Professor Sushma Yadav, Vice Chancellor Bhagat Phool Singh Mahila Vishwavidyalaya Sonipat, for chairing these sessions very ably and sparing their valuable time. In today's session on promotion of Indian languages, arts and culture, we had the privilege of having very eminent educationist of the country, Shri Atul Kothari, as key speaker. We are thankful to him for his valuable time and very interesting address. In the interface session of Apex bodies, we had Dr. Rajendra Kakade from AICT and Dr. Sham Sundar from NAC. We are thankful to both of them for providing valuable input and responding to the queries of the Vice Chancellor. I'm thankful to Professor Samten and Professor S.P. Singh for their valuable feedback during the valedictory session. We had very eminent speakers in all the sessions of the meet. I convey my heartfelt thanks to Professor Rajan Velukar, Professor Shashikala Vanjari, Professor Sanjeev Sharma, Professor O.R.S. Rao, Dr. Sujata Sahi, Professor T.V. Kattimani, and Professor Annapurna Nautiyal and Professor Joy Sen for their excellent deliberations. I'm very happy to see an overwhelming response to this East Zone meet. We owe the success of the conference, this meet, to the active participation of the Vice Chancellors. My thanks are due to all the East Zone Vice Chancellor for their kind presence and active participation in the meet. I would be failing in my duty if I do not thank individuals who are involved in conduct of this meet. In this series, first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Vijender from Meetings Division of AIU, who worked very meticulously for last several days to make this event a great success. I'm also thankful to Mr. Satyapal and his team for untiring input in realizing this meet. I thank all the staff of AIU who directly or indirectly work towards conduct of this meet, and all the staff of JS University who are involved in conduct of this meet. In this sequence, I owe special thanks to Mr. Gaurav Majumdar, coordinator of the meet at JIS University, for ensuring each and every aspect of this meet very meticulously. It's really a great effort, Dr. Majumdar. We cannot be successful in conducting a virtual meet without the expertise of technical team. I thank all the members of the technical team, particularly Mr. Saikar, Dr. Maumala, and all others who are in team at JIS, and Mr. Shivam Dikshit, who has been continuously keeping track at AIU. I'm thankful to all. As Shri Shrekadarji said yesterday, the objective of the meet will not be fulfilled unless we prepare the proceedings and document it and do the necessary action. My sincere thanks are due to all the rapporteurs of the session, Dr. Randeep and his team, for recording the deliberations of the meet so painstakingly, which will be documented in the records of AIU for further action dissemination. This has been said in this valedictory function also. I'm thankful to all other teams and individuals of AIU and JS to make the meet a success. Please forgive me for not taking the names of all. It's a long list, and obviously we are too short of time. I'm again reminded of the opening of Sri Shekhar Duttji when he said that this East Zone Vice Chancellor's meet, like sun, has started in the East. May our Vice Chancellor's conferences glow and shine like sun and provide abundance of energy and nutrition to the Indian higher education system. I cheer to all the Vice Chancellors and convey my regards to you all. Thank you once again, and thank you for the kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. We would also like to thank you for giving us this opportunity, this wonderful opportunity.
Just one moment. I forgot thanking Dr. Avik, who had been in the forefront. It was just. I'm very thankful to him.
Video on. Video.
He compared it. He anchored it very well. Thank you, Professor Avik.
Thank you, ma'am. I mean, this was indeed a team effort with inspiration from AIU. Now, we would end this session, but before ending, we would have the national anthem. So I'd request everyone assembled here to kindly stand up. After the national anthem, the session would end. Thank you, everyone. Now, the technical team.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय